Whoa, 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 whoa.
What's the problem?
This
What's the matter?
This is not a Jet show.
So what?
So how about this?
Manning lobs it. Boris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Oh, come on. I don't want to hear this.
Why not? Super Bowl champions.
Doesn't matter. I just don't want to hear it.
What do you want to hear?
How about some Mets?
Hey, if I can find one good thing that happened to the Mets, here we go.
Home run. Mike Piazza and the Mets lead 3-2.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be, I'm sorry. We all can't be like the Yankees.
Oh, speaking of.
This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Don Mattingly.
No. God, I can't believe I just said that. All right, well, listen. How about a little Nets?
If I have to.
Kid, the jumper to win it. He got it.
I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It's been a second. I can't take it. How about some Knicks?
Oh, yeah. Big spenders. Can't win a playoff.
Fair enough.
Houston pops out up top, down the lane, running jumper off the front rim, and in.
I guess we should talk a little hockey, no?
People even watch hockey anymore?
They watch the Rangers.
Well, if you have the Rangers, you gotta have some Islanders.
Yeah, no, they didn't have YouTube in the 80s.
All right, let's get the show started.
Here we are, polar opposites.
Hello and welcome to the Polar Opposites podcast on polaropposites.podbean.com. Also on iTunes. We're currently live on Spreaker. And, of course, you can follow us on the Twitter at PolarOpposites1. I'm Matt Stevens. Alongside me, as always.
Hey, it's Craig Moffitt.
And, Craig, it's nice to see you didn't get arrested this morning.
Yeah, if I need Katy Perry tickets, I know not to go to Craig Carton. Wow.
Oh, brutal. We're going to get into that. We're going to do 4 quick hitters, like some local and national mixed together.
This is an NFL preview show.
It is all
Season
NFL.
Starts tonight.
So no closing time today. Instead, during closing time, we're going to do all our NFL picks for the year, who we like in each division, the ones we do today, Super Bowl, NFC, who wins the NFC AFC Championship, who wins the Super Bowl, yada, yada.
All right, well, let's get started.
Let's do it
Why
right
wait?
in.
We're going to jump right in. These are the 4 topics of the week, basically.
Right.
So here we go. Number 1, Maddie, as expected, Ezekiel Elliott's 6-game suspension for domestic violence was upheld by an independent arbitrator. However, Elliott is allowed to play Sunday night against the Giants and will begin serving suspension week 2. The Players Association has filed a temporary restraining order, and a decision should come down by Friday. If a judge rules in Elliott's favor on the restraining order, it would freeze the suspension, while the lawsuit to get the suspension overturned plays itself out in court, which means he would basically play the whole season until he was told not to.
Right.
Maddie, should Elliott be allowed to play week 1 despite his suspension being upheld?
Okay, I'm going to do something I don't usually do, but I'm going to sort of hedge my bet with the answer, because from a legal standpoint, yes, he should be allowed to play, because that's what the law says. So, yes, from a legal standpoint, he should be allowed to play. I'll say the same thing I said with Tom Brady. The same thing with Tom Brady. What the hell is the point of a collectively bargained agreement where you said that this guy's in charge of all the discipline and all the stuff, that every single time he hands out discipline, you're going to go to court and fight it? And what the hell's the point? Can we just throw away the agreement and just do that? Because here's the thing I don't get. They keep telling me that Zeke, it's because he didn't touch her, he didn't touch her, he didn't touch her. What's the strongest union in all of sports?
I would think the NFL, right?
No, baseball is way stronger. There's no salary cap.
Baseball's very strict, too.
No, but I'm talking about the union. As far as the players' union go, the baseball's players' union is the strongest union out of all the unions, right?
Probably.
There's no salary cap. There's no nothing. When their guys get suspended for doing something, Aroldis Chapman was never even – the cop showed up to his house, and that's it. He got suspended for 30 games, and he didn't fight it at all. Zeke, the problem with Zeke here is that they think he's being suspended for beating a woman, and that might be part of it. But if you read his suspension, it says he's being suspended for going against the personal conduct policy. And honestly, just by pulling down that girl's shirt at the St. Patrick's Day parade, he could have been suspended for a couple games.
Right.
So should he play? No, he shouldn't play. But But by the
law.
letter of the law, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I understand what the law says, and I understand, but this is just so bad, and it sets a
Well,
weird,
as the judge, how
to be
does
honest,
the judge
it sets a weird precedent because,
Well, no, Tom Brady set the precedent.
I mean, but he gets suspended, but he basically you're suspended for 6 games,
Right, but you're not.
but you can play week 1, which also gives him some breathing room because if in the event that a judge rules in his favor, he can keep playing.
Well, here's the other thing, too, and this is the thing that pisses me off the most, right? So what if the judge says, you know what, it's the collective bargaining agreement. Yell at the people who signed the agreement if you didn't sign it, and they're the reason you're going to be suspended 6
Right.
games. The thing that pisses me off then is that the NFL then has their cake and eats it too, right? Zeke gets suspended for 6 games, but he's able to play Sunday night, Giants-Cowboys opening weekend of the season. So basically what they're saying is, it's like player safety, right? When they talk about player safety,
yeah.
And they're like, we're really into player safety, but they're going to play Thursday, Sunday, Monday, and now Tuesday. Like, we don't believe it. And the same thing is here. If they really, really felt that way, they would have said no. When whatever the judge's decision is, you're either going to play Sunday if he says you get an injunction, or if he doesn't, you don't play Sunday. It starts immediately.
Right.
But instead, they do that crap where they're like, oh, cake and eat it too. So we have a guy who's going to be suspended for the 6 games after the Giants, just not miss the Giants game, which is bull crap, like super bull crap.
No, I agree. And that's what I'm talking about too. It's just like, you're basically telling him, okay, you can play in arguably one of the biggest games of the year being in week 1.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's a division game. It could ultimately decide the division
And
at the end of the year.
I don't think they have another division game for the next 6 weeks.
Who, the
after
Giants
that,
or the Cowboys?
The Cowboys.
So in that sense, but if he takes a suspension week 2, then he wouldn't come back week 9 because until week 9 because Dallas's bye is in that suspension. I get it. It just looks really, really strange. It's very odd to just say, okay, we're going to uphold your suspension, but you can play on Sunday, but then you can't play after Sunday. It just seems really strange.
So they play Giants, right? Then they got Broncos, Cardinals, Rams, Packers, bye week, right? Then they got Niners, Redskins. So he would miss one division game if they suspend him after the thing.
One additional division game.
No, because it would just be he would play the Giant game.
Yeah, okay, so he would only miss one game.
It's the Redskins, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, wow.
It's nonsense.
I mean, to be honest, he caught a break. I mean, he could have easily caught a break in some ways because, again, the Giant game is huge.
Right.
Being as it's week 1, and now the Cowboys, listen, the Cowboys were a little bit of a question mark. You and I have talked about it before a few times. They're a little bit of a question mark, and now the fact that they're going to have arguably their best player on the field on Sunday for that game, that's a monster. I'm not saying it gives the Cowboys a huge advantage or anything like that, but it does make the game interesting. It makes the game important.
Just imagine this. What if Zeke doesn't play? Zeke plays and Beckham doesn't, when it should be the other way around.
True.
Number 2, WFAN radio host. Sorry, it's going to take me a minute to get through. It's spectacular. Radio host Craig Carton was arrested early Wednesday morning for wire fraud and securities fraud. Carton allegedly bilked investors by falsely claiming that he had access to millions of dollars in concert tickets at face value due to a special arrangement with a promoter or venue. However, the money received from investors was used to pay off an outstanding debt of $2.5 million to a casino in 2016. Carton also owed hundreds of thousands of dollars to other unnamed parties.
Loan sharks.
Yeah. He's been suspended indefinitely by CBS Radio, and if convicted, he could face up to 45 years in prison. Craig, is it time for us to send our demo? I've already done it, by the way.
Good
to
for you.
WFAN.
See, this is why I put the question up, because I knew you'd be on top of it.
Already did it.
All right.
Already done.
Well, the answer to that obviously is yes.
Yes.
And you've already done it. Thank you very much, Matt.
But just
let's get into the whole. Let's get into the whole thing,
because this is bad.
This is bad because it's basically a Ponzi scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme.
But also
he basically robbed Peter to pay Paul. That's exactly what he did.
This is what a Ponzi scheme is.
Yeah. So in that sense, for a guy who is one of the most popular radio hosts in New York City, because he has one of the top morning shows in New York,
which I don't get, but
okay, this is really bad because he's basically telling people, invest millions of dollars and I'll make sure to get you all these concert tickets. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, unless you're selling to scalpers, how many people need like millions of dollars of Barbra Streisand tickets or Katy Perry tickets?
But you'd be surprised if they're hard to get. The thing that you have to really worry yourself about this now, though, is that, like, should there be a thing where if you work in sports talk for a team, you can't gamble? Because he used his image as Craig Carton, right? Host of the Boomer and Carton show mornings on the biggest local sports network in the country, okay? Mm-hmm. And he used that to take millions of dollars from people so he could pay back gambling debts. What I don't understand is, as being Craig Carton, why he couldn't work out some deal with the casino. I'll do appearances. I'll pay you.
That's too easy.
Right.
That's
But
way too easy.
Yeah, because here's the thing. The other thing I want to ask is, did he really think he wasn't going to get caught? Like, in today's day and age, did you really think you weren't going to get caught?
Well, here's the thing, right? and I was looking at Facebook, and when I saw this, I thought it was a joke.
Right.
I literally thought it was a joke.
Right.
Right, because I said to myself, no, there's no way Craig Carton could do that. But then, of course, he's very douchey on the air. And maybe that's not how he is off the air. I don't know how he is off the air. But, I said to myself, and my wife asked about it too, and I said, here's the thing. Because people were responding like, well, you don't know what, we don't know what happened. We don't know this.
The feds don't arrest you for nothing.
Exactly. And that was my point. The feds probably were building this case for a while.
He's done.
And don't be surprised if there's an undercover that he didn't know about.
Yeah, who's buying tickets from him,
Text message. They have text messages saying like how he had $40 million from one investor and all that stuff. I mean, this is really bad.
Yeah.
So this works in two ways. Either he goes to trial and he rolls the dice, or he flips on somebody for a lesser.
But
sentence.
he's the biggest name in the whole deal, I would imagine, to this point. So who's he going to flip on?
I don't know. There is a
also, if he flips, they can't not give him jail time. Like he has to go to prison for something. Like
I mean, this is really bad though, because you're talking about literally in millions of dollars. Yeah. We're not just talking like a few tickets off StubHub here.
No,
we're talking like millions of dollars in tickets for all these shows. And if you know nowadays, I mean, you don't go to concerts. You've told me that before, but concert tickets are insanely expensive.
Yeah, that's why I don't go.
They are insanely expensive, especially for big shows like we talk about Katy Perry, Metallica, all those other artists. So for him to basically turn around and say, okay, I have a hookup. Meanwhile, nobody knows anything. No concert promoter or venue promoter has any type of arrangement with them. I mean, this is really bad. And then comes all the civil suits on top of that, which is just, basically going to bankrupt him to kingdom come.
But we have to, maybe we should stop having our sports anchors do picks. Maybe, or if they're going to do picks, don't use the spread. They just do straight picks. Maybe stop.
You may have to. There may have to be
stop
some
promoting the gambling aspect of sports talk radio. Because here's the thing: how am I supposed to trust anybody who's selling me anything on the radio at this point? Right? Like if they're selling tickets or whatever. Like I'm a part of this company. Blah blah blah. How am I supposed to trust this guy's not running a freaking scheme on me?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a fair point because again, you just said it yourself. He's using his celebrity status in many ways because he is a celebrity in New York.
Well, you don't get to start that unless you either have a ton of money to start with or you're a celebrity. It doesn't work like that.
Now, the worst part about it too is, and I mean, take it for what it is, but the fact is now Boomer Esiason is affiliated with a shady co-host. I mean,
yeah, but the thing is, I'm convinced Boomer had nothing to do.
No,
with
I don't
it.
think he did.
No.
But it's just the fact that the show is kind of tainted now, unless you put in someone else.
Well, they're going to have to, and we could talk about the new lineup for WFAN all day with the nonsense they're doing on Sunday. Did you hear what they're doing on Sunday?
No.
It's freaking Mark Malusis doing the football show that Francesa used to do.
Oh Lord! With
like one of the like David Deal or Justin.
You know what'll wind up happening? Mark it down. Chris Christie will be the co-host with Boomer Esiason.
I will never listen to listen to me, and you know me. I'll do this. I will never listen to another second of any show on WFAN if Chris Christie is a host on that show full time. I will never listen again.
But man, just in general, like this is
brutal.
This is really.
But here's the thing,
really
real
bad.
quick, and then we'll get to the next one because this is also too like, what if Carton had Boomer do like an appearance for this company? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like then now, listen, I'm not saying Boomer had anything to do with it. That's not what I'm saying. But like he might have gotten brought into it just by Boomer being famous.
Yeah.
So it's all nonsense.
Number 3, the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry only grew stronger this week after the Bombers accused and ultimately got Boston to admit they were stealing signs using Apple Watches during their series last month at Fenway.
Yeah.
In the complaint, the Yanks sent to the league that they accused members of the Red Sox training staff of relaying information from video personnel to players using the Apple Watches. The video showed Sox trainer John Joachim passing the info to Dustin Pedroia and Brock Holt. The Red Sox have filed a counter-complaint against the Yankees, stating the Bombers used Yes Network cameras to spy on them as well and have provided evidence to the league. Maddie, does all this matter when we already know the Yankees are winning the World Series?
Stop with that nonsense. But here's what I'll say. First of all, the Yankees don't own Yes. Okay, and that camera is the feed. The camera in center field is the Yes Network feed. So if any team wanted to look on the TV that they're playing in the clubhouse, they're going to see the same damn camera angle the Yankees get. It's not a different camera. It's one camera that sits in center field that every team has, by the way. Every single team, every single baseball game you ever watch, there's a camera right over the right shoulder of the pitcher, right? Am I wrong?
Sure.
Every single one.
Sure.
So if any team ever wanted to use that, guess what? You could all do it because it's right there. The difference is, and nobody's saying what the Red Sox did is wrong as far as stealing signs. That part is the game. If you're on second base and you figure out the signs and you give the sign to your guy, that's part of the game, right? But you getting video relayed to you, and then you can relay to second base what the order is, and then the guy right there. You know, there was a couple games in the one in August where I think it was Canely was pitching. And I think there were 2 outs. There's a couple guys on base, and it's one of the guys. I think it's the first baseman that was up at bat.
Right.
And Canely, who's got a great fastball and a great split, threw a changeup, and the guy hit it like he knew it was coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are times where it's just come on.
Here's the thing I'm going to say. I mean, whether it's part of the game or not, it's really embarrassing.
Well, Boston.
It's really
What's going on with Boston?
And that was funny too, and I'm going to credit him because he got pissed at me when I didn't credit him the last time on the show. And that was my wife's cousin Keith, Keith Siskin. Okay,
what up, Keith?
This is it. Okay,
Keith.
Consider yourself the reliable source. Consider with the simple question.
You're the man on the street, Keith.
And he texted it to me, and he was so on point. He goes, "What is up with Massachusetts teams cheating?"
True.
Okay.
True.
And like there it is. And he's exactly right. This is really bad. I mean, whether it's part of the game or not, I mean, it's like nowadays you can't even enjoy a sport anymore without players taking steroids, players taking PEDs, and now stuff like this.
Well, they've always cheated. I mean, you heard about the Giants back in the day with the guy, or was it Giants? I think it was the Giants back in the day when they were in New York,
still,
the guy in center
man,
field.
It's pretty bad, though.
When Sky Dome first opened, they used to have a guy sit in one of the hotel rooms.
But then on top of that, you got guys like Pedroia, who's a very well-known player in the league. He's one of the maybe even the face of the Red Sox franchise right now. Being involved in this, and it's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And whether Farrell knew about it, whether Dombrowski knew about it, because they're claiming that they didn't know about it. And
Come on, guys.
I don't even know. Like it's
so, like Belichick not knowing the balls are getting deflated. Come on, guys.
Here's what I'll say. I'll buy that Dombrowski didn't know about it.
Sure.
GM,
I'll buy the GM.
Is not going to know about.
I will
what's
absolutely
going on.
buy the GM.
As for Farrell, I can't, because honestly, just like you said, there's no way the manager has no clue what's going on.
No clue.
I mean, that's pretty extreme. If the manager doesn't know, then that's a huge red flag that people are taking upon themselves.
Are you trying to give them plausible deniability? I mean, who cares?
Yeah. So the thing is, at the end of the day, whether it's so embarrassing to like an organization that you resort to these tactics to win, and the funny thing was when Keith texted that to me, the first thing I wrote was, didn't do them much good over the weekend at Yankee Stadium when they got their asses handed.
Well, but that's because they didn't do it then. They were under investigation already at that point. But the thing I'll say too is this: the counterclaim that the Yankees are cheating using Yes Network cameras is hysterical, because the Yankees, A, don't own Yes anymore, so there's that. And B, it's not like there's a super secret camera that only the Yankees have the feed to that just shows the catcher's crotch so he can see what the signs are. There's a camera in center field that shows the game. There are TVs in all the clubhouses. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But it's just
anybody can do that. Anybody can do that.
But for crying out loud, it's just,
it just seems weak to come back and be like, oh, but they were cheating.
But it's almost like if you've ever watched Judge Judy and somebody comes with a suit, and then the counterclaim has no bearing whatsoever, has no foundation to even be heard in the court, let alone even be considered for a settlement.
Yeah.
This is kind of the same thing. It sounds like as soon as the Yankees presented their case to MLB did the investigation. It went right after Boston, and Boston had no choice. They were caught. They were caught dead to rights on that. And then all of a sudden Boston goes, well, wait. We have a counterclaim because we know they're using Yes Network.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know how they would get proof of that. Right? How would they get proof of that?
The thing is, unless you're taping every Yes Network game, that's the only way you're going to get proof of it. And I'm sure they did, maybe to an extent, because they probably watch game film. Maybe. I don't know. There's the Yankees and Red Sox have played this so many times, you don't even need game film of it anymore.
And the other thing too is, so you go on the feeds real quick on like ESPN and all the Boston fans are, but the Yankees are cheating too. And guys, it's amazing. Forget about the whole city being a city of cheaters, right?
Yeah.
The fans being able to sort of explain away the cheating as, well, everybody does. But no, everybody doesn't do it. Because you know all the other teams that have been caught doing this? Zero teams. What the Patriots did, 0 teams have been caught doing this. What the Red Sox did, 0 teams. So you guys are cheaters. Just own up to it.
And the thing is, teams don't, listen, I can't say teams don't put themselves in that position to do it, but if they are, they're not getting caught and they're not
Right.
making it blatantly obvious.
Exactly. Number 4, USC quarterback Sam Darnold was recently interviewed on Adam Schefter's Know Them From Adam podcast. And when he was asked about the possibility of playing for the Jets or the constant, quote, suck for Sam chance he hears about, he didn't answer directly, simply saying, yeah, I've heard about it. That's pretty much all I've got to say. The Jets could wind up with the first pick in April's draft, but San Francisco, Jacksonville, and even Buffalo could also be in the mix to land Darnold should he choose to enter the draft. Craig, judging by his comments, do you think Sam Darnold wants to play for the Jets?
I'm not sure, but my gut tells me he'll play for whatever team drafts him first overall. I mean, if he comes out, but then again, he could easily see who's going to have the number 1 overall pick and say, you know what, I'll stay in school.
You run a huge risk if you do that, though.
Of course you do, right? And the thing is, like we talked about, the track record for USC quarterbacks has not been good.
Not good.
Not good at all.
Also, he wasn't necessarily
like
great
think
over
about
the
it.
weekend.
Think about it. Barkley just got cut from the Niners, so
Right.
he's another guy without a team. And Sanchez is a third-string quarterback for Chicago. And if you just keep going back and back and back, it's like I pulled the other day, like because when I was reading a lot of the Sam Darnold stuff, I just went to Wikipedia for like USC quarterbacks. And half the guys I saw were like, man, this guy really sucked in the NFL, but he was really good. Even a guy like Cody Kessler is probably right now the best case story for a USC quarterback. He's ranked higher on the depth chart than Sanchez.
Right.
Okay. So
And he's not that good.
that's what I'm saying. So the thing is, if I'm Sam Darnold, you need to think about this long and hard, because whether you want to come to New York, whether you or not, the fact is they may be your best option to get the most money. And if you fall flat on your face or you decide to go back to school and you do poorly, you're just going to get knocked down a peg when it comes to the next draft.
Yeah.
So in that sense, do I think he wants to play for the Jets? I don't know, because I don't know if he just fancies himself a big city crowd. I don't know. But the fact is that you really shouldn't be sitting there right now saying, yeah, I don't want to play for the Jets at all, when they give you one of the best chances for marketing capabilities. They give you the best chance to get the most money should they get the number 1 overall pick. So in that sense, yes, I do think he doesn't want to play for them, but I wouldn't be that picky, I guess is my point.
No. But
Okay.
the thing for me too is if you look at that set of teams, with the exception of San Francisco, you'd rather go to the Bills or the Jaguars
That's
than
what
the
I'm saying.
Jets? Like, it makes no sense.
Even a team like Cleveland, who could very well draft a quarterback next year.
But here's the problem, and we see it now, right? We see certain teams, like the NFL's weird now with the salary cap. So because you may not have as much depth as you used to have, 1 or 2 injuries could really hamstring you for the whole year. So you see teams that are good, right, who have bad years, get high draft picks, draft quarterbacks, who then end up playing very well for them. Okay? I'm not saying the Eagles were that team, but Carson Wentz didn't go to a bad football team. You know what I mean? They went to a football team in flux, but then when they brought in the new coach, nobody thought that they were going to be 1-16, 1-15.
Sure.
You see Dak Prescott go to the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys should not have had the 4th pick in that draft. Their team was much better than that.
That was a 4th-round pick, though.
No, but I'm saying they had the 4th pick in that draft,
because that was the
but
Elliott
they
draft.
had no business having the 4th pick, but because Romo got hurt, they had a crappy season, they get a high draft pick. But I'm saying Dak going into that situation, rookie quarterbacks don't go into a situation where they have great offensive lines like that and can be that productive because they have a great running game. And so Sam is looking at those situations and going, maybe I'll wait and see if maybe another team has a bad year, like the quarterback gets hurt, and then I can go into a good situation or blah, blah, blah. The problem is that if you get hurt in college, you're screwed.
Yeah, pretty much.
And especially if now listen, it didn't happen for certain guys, but most of the time if you get hurt in college, now assuming the injuries shoulder and knee, something like that, you get really screwed.
But here's
just
the thing.
go in the NFL and make your money, man.
But here's the thing also. If you decide to stay in school, now the pressure's on you more.
Right.
Because you have to repeat what you did last year when
Right.
you could have been a number 1 overall pick or even top 3, let's say.
And it becomes hard. You have to not only just repeat, you have to be better.
USC is always competing against tough competition in the Pac-10.
But you have to be better.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think you have to be better?
And the thing is, guys like Josh Rosen or Josh Allen, from Wyoming, they're ready to go pretty much.
Right.
And I think regardless, they're going to enter the draft depending on what their status is. So in that sense, it's like, look, if the Jets don't get Sam Darnold, I don't really think it's the end of the world, to be very honest, because I think Josh Rosen is going to be just as good of a quarterback as Sam Darnold. Maybe even Josh. Do you see the game that Josh Rosen put up against Texas A&M?
Yeah.
Almost 500 yards passing, coming back from
he didn't have a great first half. And if you watch the game, I watched a lot of the highlights of that game. A lot of those passes against a good team are picked.
Now, the thing is that it's only the first game or whatever. But listen, if I'm the Jets, whatever your draft strategy is, don't plan it around Darnold if he's sending you mixed messages.
But they should.
Like if
You should never play a season to try and get a draft pick.
No, not at all.
It's never going to work out in your favor. It just never is.
Because as much as the fans sit there and talk about that they want the team to lose, then they're just going to be all pissed off when they do lose.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter. Like, look, I want to see the Jets just develop players this year. But when they're losing, I get pissed off, even though I know they're going to have a bad season because I'm a fan. So in that sense, it's the same thing. But the team should not be building their strategies around just one player.
No.
Because then you're going to have a major letdown if the kid decides to stay in school.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but in that sense, at the end of the day, I don't really know what Sam Darnold is thinking. Part of me thinks that he doesn't want to play in New York, but part of me also thinks that he'll go to whatever team drafts him number 1 overall.
He should. And the of those teams, the Jets actually have the brightest future because their defense is already good.
Mm-hmm. This is the Polar Opposites podcast. Check us out as always at polaropposites.podbean.com, as well as iTunes, as well as Spreaker.com, and follow us on Twitter at PolarOpposites1. Maddie, it's time to dive right into continue our NFL preview.
Yes.
We're going to do all the rest of the teams that we haven't done yet, and we'll do the Jets and Giants last before closing time. And closing time will basically just be our picks for the season, who's going to the Super Bowl, who's going to the playoffs, and who's going to get the wild cards and all that stuff.
Yes.
So where we now leave off is we are now in the AFC North.
Yes.
Okay, so as we always do, we start last to first. So we'll start with the Browns, and man, it has been a rough week for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett out for 2 weeks with a sprained ankle.
Yeah.
Now Calvin Pryor just got cut for fighting with a teammate before practice.
Yeah.
So it is already.
What's with Jet players wanting to punch people in the locker room? What the hell's going on, man?
I think it was outside the locker room. So,
it doesn't matter. Well, what's with that? They always got to do that. Look, the Myles Garrett actually is good news, I think. It's only a sprained ankle in 2 games. You know what I mean? Like, that could be, if he has a high ankle sprain and he's out for 2 months, that's a terrible thing. Let's be fair. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If this team wins 4 games, it's a good year, right? 5 games. If they won 6 games, that would be like a playoff year for them right now.
Well, here's how I look at their team this year. Deshaun Kaiser is going to be the starting quarterback.
Right.
Okay, which is that's fine.
Good
I
move.
I don't have a problem with that move whatsoever because
you know what Cody Kessler is.
You know what you did, though? This is what I love about Hugh Jackson. He had a competition.
Yep.
He could have easily just said, Brock Osweiler is going to be my starting quarterback.
You mean like what the Jets did?
What?
They had a quarterback competition, but which we all knew the end was going to be.
Well, we all knew
McCown.
I thought maybe Petty would have a shot,
You'd
but
think.
pretty much McCown won but that's besides the
So
point.
anyway,
so Kaiser wins the job because he basically had a better preseason than Osweiler.
Right.
And Kessler didn't have a chance. We already know that. So rather than keep Osweiler on the roster, they basically release him, and they're eating the $16 million, and he signed with the Broncos for basically nothing.
Yeah, for the league's minimum, I think.
Okay. So they roll with Deshaun Kaiser. Now, Deshaun Kaiser doesn't exactly have the greatest group of weapons around him. So this is going to be a tough season. The Browns spent money on the offensive line. They bring in Trotter and Kevin Zeitler and Bitonio and to go with Joe Thomas. And their number 1 receiver now is Kenny Britt, which is nothing really special. So they're hoping maybe a big year out of Corey Coleman, maybe an improved year out of Corey Coleman. Isaiah Crowell, they're hoping for another big season. A lot of people seem to like Isaiah Crowell this year, especially with the new line. He could definitely have a solid season overall. My only question with Cleveland is, what does it take for you to say Kaiser's not my quarterback after this year?
Man, I think he would have to be like, when I say brutal.
Like, for example, if the Browns wind up in the top 3 of the draft and all 3 quarterbacks come out and Kaiser didn't really have a good first year, but you shouldn't give up on him because it's only 1 year.
But what are we talking? Are we talking about a guy who's lost or a guy who's just having a rookie year as a quarterback in the NFL?
I'm talking a guy who's having a rookie year
then you can't draft another quarterback. It's
You
a
can't.
waste.
You can't,
It's a
right?
waste of
That's
a
my
draft
point.
pick.
You
Now,
can't.
if he's lost, if he's like,
and he doesn't seem like the
no,
kind of kid that
but
is.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When you see a guy on the field and he just has no friggin' clue what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
If he's like that, well then yeah. But here's the thing: you can't because then you're telling us that draft picks don't count. All these draft picks that you're accumulating don't matter.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you're telling
I
me.
think you got to give the kid at least 2 years, right, before you
least.
determine if he's not really
With
worth
that
it.
offense,
That's what I'm saying.
half
You
of it won't even
you
be
don't
his
have any
problem.
weapons.
Right.
Now on defense, they recently just cut Joe Hayden,
Yep.
who signed with the Steelers.
Yep.
And like we said, we talked about Pryor getting released. maybe not the greatest time to start releasing secondary guys right before the season starts.
I mean,
right? But whatever.
I mean, he was the backup to Peppers. Like, was he? Unless Peppers gets hurt, I mean, Peppers is going to play.
Yeah, Peppers actually had a pretty strong preseason.
He's a good player.
So this is going to be an interesting year. I mean, I think people like the Browns a lot more because they spent money on the offensive line and they like what Deshaun Kaiser can bring to the table. But sometimes I say to myself, this is the Browns, and they could easily find a way to screw this up at the same time. So in that sense, Garrett's out for a couple of weeks, but like you said, it's only a few weeks, so it's not really a big deal. And so I think they'll take a little step forward. It'll be like a baby step forward, I think. I don't know if it's going to be a colossal step forward because, again, at the end of the day, you're still playing in the AFC North against the Browns, against the Ravens, and against the Steelers.
Yeah, that is. Oh God, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, and the thing that you don't, and the thing is that the division is still very good.
Yeah.
Like, even though the Bengals might not be as good as they have been, and even though the Ravens might not be as good as they have been, they're still very good teams. I mean, you could definitely see them going 0-6 in that division.
Sure,
you know what I mean. I mean, you could see them winning a game here and there, but more than anything, you could see them going 0-6 in that division. On to the Cincinnati Bengals, who didn't have a great year last year. Part of that was because of injury. They had a ton of injuries. AJ Green missed. They should have sat him a lot sooner than they did. They trotted him out there with that hamstring. He ended up really hurting it, and then he was out for the season. Look, if you ever listen to this show, we've been saying the same thing for 4 years. The Bengals might be good. They're never going to be great, ever. They may win that division, but they'll be eliminated in the first game. They are not making the Super Bowl. They are an average team. And I think actually going the other way because, to me, the window with Dalton and Green and Hill and Eifert and all those guys isn't closed, but
it's closing.
It's closing, and it's closing very fast. They have a decent. They have a good offensive line. I don't know if it's amazing. They have a good offensive line. They have good weapons, although I don't think after they lost the guy that went to Atlanta.
Alex Mack?
No, the wide receiver.
Mohamed
Sanu. Because he was such a really good number 2. He could also throw the ball, so he was involved in a lot of their trick plays. I mean, Brandon LaFell's a good wide receiver, and
drops a lot of passes.
Well, yeah,
And on top of that, their first-round pick is out for a few weeks, John Ross.
Right. But, I mean, look, you put anybody opposite A.J. Green, they're going to be a good wide receiver because they're going to get single covered, right? Because A.J. is going to get double coverage. They have a good running game. The thing that wins them games is defense. The only problem is they have a linebacker who can't stay on the damn field because he's too busy doing illegal hits on people. Now, I think this suspension is crap, but he's still got to stay on the field. So with Burf, now they have a very good defense. Their defensive line is very good. They get after the quarterback. They have good linebackers. They have a decent secondary. I'm not a huge fan of Kirkpatrick, but they have and Pac-Man at some point's gonna. I mean, he's not been great. So I mean, it's like this team could go 10-6 or 6-10. Like it could be anything.
I could easily argue that the owner is holding this team back because he keeps employing Marvin Lewis as head coach.
Oh, well, I
mean, Marvin Lewis is, listen, I understand what Marvin Lewis was when he was with the Ravens. He was a great defensive coordinator and all that stuff. But he's been with this team for, isn't it been like 10 years already?
I think it's been longer than that.
Okay. And he's literally led them to basically 8-8 and 9-7 records. He hasn't made them any better. They have not won a postseason game.
Nope.
Okay. And to be very honest, he hasn't really developed Andy Dalton to be anything more than a middle-tier quarterback. Andy Dalton is not an elite quarterback. Everybody goes crazy about Andy Dalton, but he's really done nothing for this organization. He had, like I said, the Bengals haven't won a postseason game as long as Andy Dalton is quarterback of this team. That should raise a flag.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
You would think. Right, you would think. But it doesn't.
So the thing is that they're basically bringing back most of the same guys from last year. They drafted John Ross, who's hurt and will miss a few games, and they have Joe Mixon, who everybody is really high on, despite the fact he knocked out his girlfriend. So here's the bottom line is that you're basically bringing back the same team. Your offensive line is weaker because you lost Andrew Whitworth and you lost Kevin Zeitler. Those are two important pieces to your line.
They were, but Whitworth's 35. I can't.
Still, I think he's still better than what they have.
I agree with you, but at 35, you couldn't have expected an all-pro season again from that guy.
Now,
So getting rid of him doesn't bug me as much.
here's how we will end the Cincinnati Bengals preview. As long as Marvin Lewis is still the head coach of this team, and I'm convinced at this point he's got some kind of blackmail photos on the owner or his daughter or whatever.
No, I'm convinced it's like the Trump P tape. Like he's got like a video of the owner getting urinated on by like dudes.
But that's what I'm saying is that like I don't understand how this guy is still the coach of this team.
Nobody
And
does.
as long as he's the coach of this team, they will always be at 500 and below 500. And what do we always say on the show?
Mediocrity is the worst.
There's nothing worse than being mediocre.
Absolutely.
On to the second place team. That'll be the Baltimore Ravens. A little scare in the beginning in preseason with Joe Flacco being hurt, but it looks like he will be good to go for week 1.
Said he's not 100%, but, he's not really super mobile, so it's not, But here's the thing. If he gets cracked, it's going to be Ryan Mallett, folks. So get lucky. Get ready.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens bring back, again, they bring back the same guys from last year. A lot of these guys. The big addition was Jeremy Maclin after he was released from the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't really think Maclin has much left in the tank. I think the Philadelphia offense spoke volumes about how his production was because he was not productive with Kansas City.
Well, but also they don't have like a possession receiver. Both their receivers are fast, fly down the field guys.
Yeah,
so that's not a huge thing. Their tight end.
The problem with their tight ends is they're just rotating because they're all injured.
Right.
Watson is coming back from a torn Achilles. Pitta had to retire because of another hip surgery.
Right.
Even another guy, Crockett Gilmore, who was a guy, kind of a good, decent weapon out of Flacco's offense. He was hurt, so I think they either released him or he's done for the season as well.
Right.
So this year they're going with Watson again.
Right.
They have, I think Nick Boyle is another guy.
Yep.
But again, none of the Ravens' offensive players that are really exciting. I think Wallace is another year older. I think that, Maclin to me is not that good of a receiver. And I could easily argue that Flacco is just, to me, a little overrated. I don't know why I think that.
I don't think he's overrated. I think he's rated where he is. People usually put him in the, 10 to 15 range as far as quarterbacks go, and then, slot him in there. The thing for me about them is they try to win games in a very difficult fashion. They try to win games by not wow. They try to win games sort of like how Dallas tries to win, right? They try and beat you down with the run game and let their defense hold strong, and then they make plays at the end. That's a hard way to win in the NFL on a consistent basis because other teams make plays too. And if your defense has an off day, your offense can't catch up.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the weapons to score quick. People talk about the Giant offense. The thing about the Giant offense is it's got quick strike capability. They can score in one play. Now, you can tell me that the Baltimore can do that with Maclin and Williams on the other side, but they're not great anymore.
Yeah, but teams
it's
know
not Maclin from 5 years ago.
But here's the thing, though. Teams also know how to defend that. They know how to defend. They know Wallace can only go deep.
Right.
He can't do anything else. He did that with the Steelers, too, and he was great with it on the Steelers when they had with Roethlisberger. With the Ravens, it's been feast or famine.
Right.
It's been, it's all in. Wallace is the kind of guy that will get you 2 catches for 125 yards.
Yeah.
And he'll break one big one, and you'll never hear him on the stat sheet again.
Now, the defense scares me a little bit here because you have an aging defense. Your two of your best players on defense are old, Eric Weddle and Terrell Suggs. They always have a good defensive line in their 3-4 defense. They always have a good defensive line. You like Mosley at middle linebacker. Their corners are good, but they don't necessarily scare me too much. But the thing to me is that they're still going to rely on Terrell Suggs to be Terrell Suggs. And at like 34, I don't know if he can be. He's always hurt. He's always missing games. And Weddle is also in his 30s as well.
But even the Ravens secondary hasn't been that good. Like when they had Ladarius Webb and they had Jimmy Smith wasn't really that great. They brought in Brandon Carr from the Cowboys.
Which is not, Brandon Carr, like if the Cowboys are cutting defensive backs, the guy can't be good.
Yeah. He's old. Brandon Carr, I think, is around 33,
right, but
34
the Dallas
years old as
secondary sucks.
Now,
so when they cut a guy,
They did draft Marlon Humphrey this year from Alabama, so I'm sure he'll definitely get a lot of playing time this year. And Tony Jefferson was signed from the Arizona Cardinals. Good safety. Weddle is still one of the best in the business, regardless of his age, and everything.
But I'm saying you there's always going to be that time, right, where it just turns. And in football, it's usually like a game where like all of a sudden he's not fast enough, Well,
the problem with the Ravens in general is they always feel like they're competing, but they're also another one of those teams that hovers around 9-7. The difference between the Ravens and those other teams is when the Ravens make the playoffs,
they win,
and they're not a team you want to face.
Especially if you're the New England Patriots.
Exactly. On to our first team. Obviously, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, the Steelers are... The usual suspects. Le'Veon Bell held out for most of the offseason into the preseason, but that's really kind of a moot point at this.
He did that so he said he wouldn't get hurt, which
Fair
is
enough.
fair. I have
don't
no
an
problem
issue
with that.
The only problem is when you don't practice, you tend to get hurt.
Right.
So that was,
He's going to pull a hamstring the first week or groin or something, and it'll be lingering all year. And
we've kind of talked about this in the past about Roethlisberger, where we pretty much said he's one bad hit away from his career being done.
And Landry Jones is not a suitable backup.
I mean, Roethlisberger has taken a beating, and I'm not saying the offensive line in Pittsburgh is terrible, but it's not.
He holds on to the ball too long, though. That's the problem. Roethlisberger holds on to the ball longer than anybody except Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Martavis Bryant is back from suspension. Antonio Brown, obviously. Darius Hayward-Bay is one of those underrated possession guys now. I remember when he drafted him, the Raiders drafted him like 7th overall that year, and he wasn't even remotely close to going that way. But he was one of those workout warrior guys from the combine.
He was fast, too. He was super fast, and Al Davis loved fast.
One thing I like about the Steelers is, though, they do have good depth at wide receiver.
Yes.
You have Eli Rogers, you have Justin Hunter, who beat out Sammy Coates, who was eventually traded to the Browns. And then you have Hayward-Bay, and they drafted Juju Smith-Schuster this year from USC.
Just a great name.
Juju Smith-Schuster or Ha-Ha Clinton-Dix? Best name in the NFL.
I think it's Juju Smith-Schuster at this point because you get to say Juju. And he's fast, too, right? So, Juju's going fast.
Yeah, but
also, Juju could be, it could be considered anti-Semitic.
Okay. whatever you say.
The other thing, too, is their tight end depth is amazing. I mean, Grimble's a good tight end, and he's not third. He's third.
And then they just acquired Vance McDonald from the 49ers,
right.
And they have Jesse James. And I guess Heath Miller is pretty much retired.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I guess so.
Which
sucks. That guy was good,
That
man.
guy was Mr. Reliable, man. He used to make some big catches.
They also have a very good offensive line, right? They have a very good offensive line. The thing is that, again, you talk about it, and it's not their offensive line that gets them sacks. It's Ben Roethlisberger who gets himself sacked by holding on the ball for 10 hours.
But again, what worries me about Roethlisberger is he gets killed.
Well, and the other thing, too, is the way he's been talking. If he gets hit real hard again, he
done.
could just be like, who wants to deal with that crap?
Now, moving on to their defense, obviously they made one big addition that was adding Joe Hayden, even though I don't think Joe Hayden is as good as he used to be, but he's still pretty quality. He's a quality cornerback, but I think
that allows them to put Gay in the slot if they want to,
Artie Burns actually had a pretty solid rookie season last year for them. He was their first-round pick last year.
Cody Sensabaugh behind him.
And then with the the linebackers, Ryan Shazier, Bud Dupree, T.J. Watt had a pretty solid preseason.
When James Harrison, and look, James Harrison had a really good year last year as a 8-year-old guy. If you ever watch it, if you ever want to feel bad about yourself, watch a James Harrison workout video. He will make you feel bad about yourself. But here's the thing about the Steelers, and it's amazing. And it doesn't matter what generation, doesn't matter what time. They always have good linebackers. Mm-hmm. They always do. Look at that linebacking core. Bud Dupree,
I love the depth, man. I love the depth of this team.
I mean, listen, James Harrison is going to be able to come in on third downs and that's all he's going to have to do. Yeah. That's all he's going to have to do. He's not going to play the run. He's not going to have to play any of that other crap. They're going to put him on third and long and go get that guy.
And I like their defensive line with Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward. So this team is stacked. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, the Steelers definitely that's what I like. What they do is they add pieces here and there,
right? And
they draft really well.
Yeah,
I really like the way they draft. But eventually, now you're going to have to start thinking about a future replacement for Ben Roethlisberger because
they should have been doing that.
That's what worries. That's the one thing. If you're a Steeler fan, that's the one thing that worries you at this point is the fact that if Roethlisberger takes a bad hit this year, he's done.
But isn't that something they should have done in this year's draft? Start looking at backups.
Sometimes I think that teams have a hard time letting go of the past in a way.
Right, but the Giants
prep for the future.
The Giants have now used 2 draft picks in the last 8 years on a 4th-round guy to be their backup for Eli in case he gets hurt.
See, think about it like this. If you have a guy like Roethlisberger, you have a guy like Eli Manning, you can waste a pick maybe in the middle to late rounds on a quarterback to see what you have.
Right.
If you're a team that sucks, then no, you can't really waste that pick because it's just going to set your team back all the way.
Right.
Let's move on to the NFC North.
Woo-hoo.
We'll start with the Chicago Bears. Man, this team is going to really suck this year. And while I think that a lot of people seem to like them a little bit more than maybe you and I do, the fact is that their best receiver, Cameron Meredith, tore his ACL, and he's out for the season.
Yeah, that sucks.
You have Kevin White, who hasn't played
in 2 years.
I think he's only played like 10 games in 2 years.
It's 2 years. Because he was 2 years ago, yeah.
Okay. And that was the microfracture surgery I think he had to have. And Kendall Wright is a Tennessee cast-off. And then you have an issue now. You have a main issue at quarterback because Glennon hasn't looked great. He hasn't looked bad after that first game against Denver. He looked a little bit better, but now everybody's pushing for Trubisky to start because Trubisky had a better preseason.
Well, but that's, again, it's the same thing we talked about with some of the other guys. Like Trubisky had a good preseason against who?
Against second and third team guys.
Right.
So the thing is that, but you paid Glennon all this money to be a starter, and he didn't really have much experience being a starter either. So in that sense, actually, if I could say so, the guy with the most experience as a starter is Mark Sanchez, who's their third string quarterback.
If I'm the Bears, I actually don't mind them starting Glennon, even though they're not going to be good and they're not going any like for most teams, you would say Trubisky. Here's where the Bears could be smart about this, right? I would start Glennon and just hope that he's good, because if he's good and you like Trubisky, then you can trade Glennon for more draft picks. So not starting Glennon is a waste for the Bears.
If Glennon has a decent season this year, teams will come calling for a draft pick because he'll only have 2 more years left and the money may not be fully guaranteed.
Right.
So it's a win-win for both teams.
Exactly.
So if you can find a way you won't get a first-round pick for Glennon unless a team is really desperate for a starting quarterback, but you'll definitely get a third. I think you get
maybe even a second. If he has a good year, maybe even a second. Like the team like the Jets, if they're in a draft spot where they don't think one of those quarterbacks is going to be there, they have that extra second-round pick, they can hump Seattle's second-round pick over to the Bears and get him. The thing for me, I think you have to do that. Now, if he starts to suck, then you put Trubisky in because why not? That makes no sense. But you have a chance here to let the quarterback of your future watch for half a season, right? Mm-hmm. And on top of that, get assets back for a guy that you signed in the offseason.
Yeah, and the thing is, I can't make heads or tails of what the Bears were doing. I mean, is this a rebuilding year? Because it doesn't sound like it was a rebuilding year. When they went in and gave Glennon all that money, and then they wound up drafting Trubisky. So it sends a lot of mixed messages as to what they're trying to do.
Well, I think it's a rebuild, but I think they're trying to do like a Yankee thing where like they're not totally tearing it down. They're just trying to rebuild by adding pieces. But I don't know if that works in the NFL because I think it's too easy to tear everything down and rebuild it in a year or two with everything you can do with the salary cap. As for the Bear, now listen, the Bear offensive line is,
Well, the thing is like a lot of people expect big things out of Jordan Howard, and I think Jordan Howard will have a solid season, but that line is scary. And when you're playing the Packers twice a year, you're playing the Vikings twice a year, and the Lions twice a year,
right?
The Bears are going to get their asses handed to them a few
times. A few times. Yeah.
Now you look at their defense. Obviously, I like their linebackers with Trevathan and Leonard Floyd. That's
Trevathan. By
is it
the way.
Trevathan?
It is.
I stand corrected.
It's all right. It's the only name I know how to pronounce.
But their defense with they bring in Marcus Cooper from the Cardinals, who was more of a fourth cornerback, not really a starter. Amukamara comes in from Jacksonville. I think he's already hurt. Quentin and Quentin Demps. See, this is what I'm talking about, though. It's a lot. It's like a patchwork job. It's not really like a.
But these two guys, Demps and Amukamara, were in the defensive backfield for the Giants when they literally had the worst defense in the history of the game. So enjoy that, guys.
So I mean, again, I think that maybe the people are giving the Bears too much credit because it's John Fox. I don't really know, but I think this is going to be a rough year in Chicago.
Let me put it this way. If the Bears were in the AFC East, I would give them a chance to win 6 to 8 games.
That's
but
fair.
They're not. They're in the NFC North. And even though I'm not a huge fan of the Vikings, they got to play the Vikings, the Lions, and the Packers. That's not easy. That's just not easy. And when you're the Chicago Bears, and here's the thing, you're going to have to tell me where your scoring's coming from. That's what you're going to have to tell me because I don't know. They have a decent running game, but can the offensive line block enough for them? Is Kevin White a good receiver? This is a guy they drafted with the 6th pick in the draft. Was it the 6th?
And then he had the surgery
and then
during
he had
training
the surgery, and then he didn't play a lot last
so
year.
You
so
right
you
now
don't
know you have no idea what you have with this guy. It's
None.
going to be a long season.
Oof.
And again, I mean, if you can get anything out of Glennon this year to kind of delay Trubisky's arrival pretty much as starting quarterback in Chicago, do it, because if you throw him out there, he's going to get killed. I mean, plain and simple.
He definitely is. On to the Minnesota Vikings.
This is a team to me that just disappoints me. First of all, just like we said about Marvin Lewis, let's call it how it is. The Vikings are not winning anything as long as Sam Bradford is a starting quarterback of this team. Okay? And they don't have Adrian Peterson. So that's another
Here's the thing. The reason that Sam Bradford is a starting quarterback is a horrible reason, though.
They needed a quarterback.
Teddy.
I feel bad for Teddy
feel
Bridgewater.
so bad for Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, it's brutal.
I feel bad for Teddy Bridgewater, but it is what it is. And the fact is that, he had a brutal injury.
First round pick.
Yeah, that's when Minnesota did I called it the Minnesota cock block.
Yeah.
They traded, they leapfrogged over Houston, who I'm so convinced was going to take Teddy Bridgewater on the first pick in the second round. So basically, again, the Vikings bring back the usual suspects. They bring back Stephon Diggs. Their offense has always been decent. This kid, Adam Talian, seems to be one of Bradford's favorite targets. And Kyle Rudolph is definitely be a very dependable tight end, especially in the red zone.
Right.
Catches a lot of touchdowns, makes some big catches. They signed Latavius Murray from the Raiders in the offseason, as well as draft Dalvin Cook, which that pick I loved, personally, because I really wanted him on the Jets. Their line to me is going to be a weak spot.
Well, it can't be weaker than it was last year, because last year it was flat brutal.
You're starting a rookie center this year in Pat Elflein. You bring in Riley Rife from the Lions, who really wasn't that great for them in his time in Detroit. And as for the rest of the guys, it's tough to say. They got rid of Khalil, who wasn't really that great for them either. So it's really saying something that their Vikings, they can't really develop a formidable offensive line.
And the other thing you got to look at too is that Sam Bradford, I think, averaged like 3 yards a pass last year.
He doesn't throw deep.
He just doesn't.
And I think that's just the shoulder at this point.
Shoulder, also the offensive line. There's just no time. So if you're a defense and you're a defensive back, until they prove otherwise, I'm jumping routes. I'm like sticking a guy like glue, because you don't have to play off a guy because he's not running by you.
And
he's just not.
And the other thing too is their running game doesn't scare people that much. Cook is a rookie, and Murray showed some flashes as a Raider, but he wasn't really that great last year.
No.
So, and he won't be asked to carry the major load. Now, I do like the Viking defense. I like their defensive line with Linval Joseph and Griffin. And, I like their secondary, Trey Waynes and Xavier Rhodes, who had just signed a massive contract. Harrison Smith is one of the top safeties in the NFC. Barr
at linebackers real good.
I think they need a little more from Barr, though. He hasn't really been as good, but I like the pick when they made it. I thought it was a solid pick, but I don't think he's given them everything he's got.
Well, he hasn't had the sacks they thought he was going to have. They thought he was going to be more athletic to go after the quarterback. I think he's been good in coverage and things like that, but as far as his sack totals, they have not been that high.
Quickly, do you think that the Vikings will miss Adrian Peterson?
No.
Not at all?
He didn't really play for them the last couple years. He was suspended for 1 year, and then he was hurt for most of the other.
Okay.
And also, I think at certain, I think running back in the NFL is a position now where when the guy turns 30, you just get rid of him. And a team that like the Saints or the Patriots or the Packers will pick them up because they like the veteran type. But if you're the Vikings, having Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray as your backfield makes you a better football team than hoping Adrian Peterson can play 16 games.
That's true. And I think at this point, like I said, the Viking offense doesn't scare you very much. However, the Viking defense will keep them in a lot of games this year.
They will. And listen, with their offense, if their offense clicks, even though it's short passing game, they can control the clock with that because they throw 3-4 yards at a time. It's almost like a weird sort of style of running game. And if they can do that, that'll help their defense also win them games. The problem is that, again, it's like I said, they don't have quick strike capability. If they're down 14 points, it's going to take them 2 long drives to score touchdowns unless somebody makes a mistake or falls down or they have good special teams. So they're going to have problems scoring in games, and if their defense ever gives a 21, 27 points, I'm not sure they can come back from that. I'm just really not.
On to the Detroit Lions, who made the playoffs last year, just signed Matt Stafford to a monster contract, highest paid player, I think, in the NFL now.
Well, he was up.
Okay. So
it was his turn, right?
So it's next man up. I don't know who that'll be yet, but soon enough.
Odell.
Yeah, probably. Here's the thing about the Lions is Stafford is a great quarterback. He's definitely been durable. He's been pretty solid. I think he's been pretty solid.
Great.
You got to give him.
Great.
He's definitely top 10 now in the league.
But great to me is lock Hall of Famer. Great means you're better than everybody.
Well, I don't think
Tom Brady, Drew Brees. Those guys are great.
Those guys for me are elite.
See, but I can't. It's too many levels.
We have a different way of. Fair enough.
Anyway.
Okay, so basically the Lions bring back the same, again, just like all the other teams, Golden Tate, Marvin Jones. Eric Ebron, to me, has been disappointing since they drafted him. He really hasn't been at that.
Thank God.
When he came out of North Carolina, they made it seem like this guy was going to be elite, like one of the top tight ends in a Hall of Famer. and he barely gets 5 catches a game.
And Giants fans were livid
Yeah, I
that the
remember
Giants didn't trade up to get Ebron. You know who they drafted in that draft?
Was it not Beckham, right?
That's Odell.
It was Odell.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember. See, like it seems like it was only yesterday. That's why I kind of.
But like, yeah. So yeah, there you go, Giant fans. Way to be stupid.
I don't like they spent a lot of money in their offensive line. With the right side of the line is fine with Ricky Wagner from the Ravens and TJ Lang. The left side of the line scares me because they traded for Greg Robinson, who was a huge bust for the Rams.
Right.
He was a second overall pick, I think, in like 14 or 13, and he's been terrible.
But that could just be the Rams.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Maybe a guy goes to a good team and he's like, "Oh, this is how you play football."
The other thing I don't like about the Lions' offense is, no
running game.
It's not even a running game. You don't have a between the inside rusher.
They're all
you
the
have
same guy.
everything is either a scat back to the outside or a guy who can catch passes.
Well, Abdullah Riddick and Zenner are almost the same guy.
Yeah, except Zenner's white.
Well, right.
There's the only difference.
Right.
Okay. Stating the obvious.
No, it's I agree. But the other thing to me is that like their wide receivers don't scare me. And they don't scare me at all. I mean, Golden Tate doesn't scare me and Marvin Jones doesn't scare me. So again, I think Matthew Stafford will win them games like he did. I think he had 8 comeback wins last year. I think it was some crazy thing like that. And they'll do good that way. As for their defense, their secondary's bad. It's just bad.
It's Darius Slay and Glover Quinn. The other 2 guys I wouldn't know. But Detroit hasn't had a good defense in years. I mean, now they drafted a linebacker this year, Gerard Davis, so he'll be manning the middle. Ezekiel Ansah or Ziggy Ansah, I think, is going to miss time.
Yeah,
I think he's going to start the season hurt. Ashawn Robinson was a second-round pick last year for them. He's been pretty decent for them. He could have a big season. But outside of that, I mean, again, I'm not sold.
As old. I mean,
I just have a hard time really buying into the Lions defense. Now, it really becomes what Terrell Austin makes them.
Yeah.
He's their defensive coordinator. He's the one up for coaching jobs every year. He got them, their defense did play better than expected last year. But at the same time, I think it's just, again, you got to add more pieces to it. And I don't really think they did enough to really make that defense better.
Not even a little bit. On to the division champs, the Green Bay division. Division champs, the Green Bay Packers, who
I don't really know what else you can really say about the Packers at this point. I mean,
well, here's what I would say. And this is sometimes teams they think they're too smart for their own good. And I think it was not smart of them to not address the running back in a better way.
I agree 100%.
Ty Montgomery, although played very well for them at running back last year, why wouldn't you want him as a wide receiver?
But the Packers are one of those teams that they don't really spend a lot of money in free agency. They always look to try to find everything through the
but
draft.
it's wide receiver now. You can get good wide receivers in the 6th round. I mean, it's unbelievable what you can. I mean, good running backs in the 6th round. And so to me, like, yes, you still have Nelson, you still have Cobb, but wouldn't it be harder to defend them if you had Montgomery, Nelson, and Cobb with a good running back in the backfield who can go between the tackles? I mean, and that's the thing for them, and that's why every year when we talk about the Green Bay Packers, every single year they can run the ball, they can throw the ball all they want, but at some point you have to run the ball, and you have to give your defense a break and have series that last longer than 3 minutes. And so I think that's what always hurts them. Their line is always good, not great, always good, but they don't have to be great because Aaron Rodgers is Houdini and he can get out of any predicament around. And, Jordy Nelson, now, Jordy will probably be better this year because, as we always say, it's the 2nd year off the knee, so he'll be better. And Randall Cobb is a good wide receiver. The best move they made in the offseason was bringing in Bennett because I love Black Unicorn. He's one of my favorite players ever. Because he's got unicorn blood,
and he'll fit into that offense pretty much.
Oh, easy,
like a glove.
He went from one guy to another. I mean, if you have a fantasy football team, or if you're doing DraftKings, Martellus Bennett's gonna have a touchdown a week. He can almost lock it up.
So, and outside of that, I mean, they pretty much have the same line. I mean, they did lose. I think Treader was a member of the Packers,
right.
And all that stuff. Now, when you look at their defense, pretty much, again, a couple of changes. Peppers isn't back. He went back to Carolina.
Right.
They drafted Kerry, I think it's Kerry King from he's right now on the number 1 on the depth chart next to Devon House. Clinton Dix is one of the best safeties in the league.
He is.
Morgan Burnett is actually pretty strong. They bring back Nick Perry.
Yep.
He was,
they have a good secondary.
Yeah. The thing is with Clay Matthews is as much as he's a good pass rusher, but he never stays healthy.
Yeah, he always misses
a few games, and that's always going to hurt them in the long run.
Yeah.
So I expect the Packers to be exactly where they were last year. I don't see anything different. As long as Rodgers is their quarterback and their receivers are intact, I don't think this team's going anywhere atop the.
And at some point we're going to have to talk about the fact that the Packers don't even make it to the Super Bowl ever with one of, if not the best quarterback of our generation. Right? I mean, at some point we're going to have to talk about that because we never do. Because we always say, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback." Shut your mouth. On to the probably maybe worst division and all.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. The AFC East. If anybody picks any other team to win this division other than the Patriots, they're either stupid or they're stupid. So we're going to start with the Jets.
You want to do the Jet preview now?
Oh shit! Sorry. So we're not going to start with the Jets. We're going to start with the was it the Miami? No, it was the Buffalo Bills. So we're going to start with the Buffalo Bills, who are. If you think the Jets are tanking,
Buffalo is coming really close.
Buffalo is tanking. Okay? The Jets are at least making trades to try and improve their team. Buffalo is doing the exact opposite.
Buffalo's trading guys off their team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get the hell out of here. We don't need
it's a new
Line.
coach with Sean McDermott. It's a new philosophy. They bring in, they keep Tyrod Taylor after he was rumored to go to the Browns or he was rumored to be released. And
the immortal TJ Yates.
What they do what the Bills are, I guess they're just trying to change the philosophy of Rex not being there anymore, and all that stuff. I guess it's the only thing I can think of. They trade away Sammy Watkins. They trade away Ronald Darby. They trade away a lot of guys. And even just the other day, I was reading an article about how Marcel Darius, they left him at the airport because he showed up late to, for the bus. So they pretty much left him in whatever city he was in. He had to get home on his own. I don't know if things like that are like really do anything for team culture. Maybe they do. Maybe it's just a way of the coach of saying, this is my team, and
But does it make players want to go there, though?
And that's the point, you know, because the thing is, if you didn't think people wanted to go to Buffalo before, if this guy keeps pulling these ridiculous things, team players aren't going to want to go there again.
Yeah.
It was, they haven't been in the playoffs in 17 years. They've always been that 8-8 team.
Always.
See, they are the textbook definition next to the Miami Dolphins of
Yep.
an 8-8 team. Okay. There's nothing exciting about Buffalo, so you might not want to alienate the players you have there now.
Yeah, and look, and the thing is their offensive line wasn't great to start. They don't have good wide receiver weapons, and I'm including Sammy Watkins in that because Sammy Watkins can't stay healthy. Now, I applaud them for that trade because they got assets for a guy they knew they weren't going to bring back, right? So I applaud them for that. Their offensive line isn't great, and Tyrod Taylor's not a great quarterback. I know people try to tell me he is, but I just don't think he is. As for their defense is always good, not great. They don't have a great defensive line. They have a decent defensive line. Their cornerbacks are not great. I look at this team and it's like a hodgepodge, right?
Here's the thing. They lost Stephon Gilmore to the
Right.
Patriots, and the other cornerback was Darby, who they traded to the Eagles.
Right.
They get E.J. Gaines back in the Watkins trade with the Rams, and then they draft Tre'Davious White.
Right.
With the pick they got, they traded down to when I think the Chiefs drafted Mahomes. Overall, though, Buffalo's defense will keep them in. Oh, and they also traded Reggie Ragland, who was another Rex draft pick, a second-round pick from 2 years ago.
Right, who never played
Because he tore his ACL. And the new defense, either he didn't pick it up or he was just lost in the depth chart because they just traded him. There's nothing that stands out about Buffalo's defense
yet.
Okay. Kyle Williams is still there. Jerry Hughes is still there. Darius is still there. But to me, these guys really haven't been has it really made them better?
No.
You see what I mean? Darius hasn't made them better.
No, but you hope Gaines and White coming in will make their secondary better. Now, the problem is they may. It's going to be hard to gauge his defense because they're playing 2 games against the Jet offense and 2 games against the Dolphin offense with Jay Cutler. So it's going to be hard to gauge his team because they may look like they have really good defensive players, but it might just be because of the competition.
But here's the thing. If the Jets offense scores a few touchdowns on them,
that's even worse.
Can we even question if this defense is any good?
No.
Getting back to the offense for a minute on the Buffalo Bills. You have Shady, who is rumored to be traded, and now you're basically building the offense around him because you don't have good receivers.
Right.
You have a second-round receiver in Zay Jones. You have Jordan Matthews, who is just more of a possession guy, and he's not really that good either.
He was the fourth receiver on a team that needed wide receivers in Philly, so he's not great.
Brandon Tate is more of a return guy, not really a receiver. I would expect big things out of Charles Clay, the tight end. I think he could definitely have a pretty decent season. And as for Tyrod, Tyrod doesn't make that many mistakes, but he's not really an impact player either. So
I call him Mike Vick light.
But at this point, I think it's just for another year because I really think what's going to happen is the Bills are going to figure out a way to kind of package those picks that they got in those few trades and try to go up and get a quarterback.
It's definitely possible.
Depending on how the draft falls. So in that sense, but again, in Buffalo, like you said, the Jets are at least adding guys and trying to maybe just show that they're, they realize now.
Fill needs. They're trying to fill needs.
What they're doing is they're basically saying, we evaluated our young guys, and right now these guys are just not ready, but they could be on the cusp of something better.
Right.
So we're going to go out and figure out ways to add new play, add a couple of veterans to try to just feel it out.
Right.
Okay. It's very low risk, high reward. And that's the whole point. I think in some ways that's a big thing about a rebuild.
Yeah.
Okay. You hit it big. You could either figure out a way to trade the guy for a draft pick or whatever. But Buffalo to me just seems like they're making deals, but there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Well,
at this point.
It's Buffalo.
On to the Miami Dolphins, who got kind of screwed by Hurricane Irma this week, so this is their bye week on Sunday.
Listen, look.
I don't even know what would have been an easier solution.
Yeah, it's weather, so it's nothing you can do about it, and you're just going to have to suck it up and do it. The good thing is that after losing
played in London.
Tannehill, well, that's their second home. After losing Tannehill, nobody really picked them to do much, so it might work in their favor. And maybe they're one of those teams I was talking about earlier that are actually a good team who has a crap year because their quarterback went down and they get a high draft pick, which would only make them better. They have a good offensive line. Pouncey, Tunsil, they have a good offensive line. They have really good wide receivers. Landry's a really good wide receiver. He gets no love because of where he plays and the quarterback he plays for. But let's be fair, over his first 3 seasons, him and Beckham have almost been neck and neck, and nobody talks about Landry in that conversation.
Kenny Stills is a good deep threat, but he's like a Mike Wallace.
Yeah.
You either don't see him on the stat sheet or he catches like a big touchdown.
Right, or he breaks records. Ajayi is a good running back. But it all comes down to one thing. It's Jay Cutler. So which Jay Cutler are we getting? Are we getting the Jay Cutler who sucks? Or are we getting the Jay Cutler who kind of sucks?
Or are we getting but here's the thing about Jay Cutler.
Because there's no great Jay Cutler.
Look, much has already been said about what his arm, he still has a good arm. No one is saying he doesn't. The thing about Jay Cutler that turns off a lot of teams is the attitude. It's a very it looks like a defeatist attitude in many ways. When you see him, he has
that face. He has that face.
He has
that
most
punch.
Yeah, he has the most deadpan reaction to everything. He doesn't really seem enthusiastic about any team he's ever played for.
And he just looks like a knob. I'm not saying he is. I don't know the man personally, but just his face looks like a knob.
And that's my point. So in that sense, you're going to get Jay Cutler, who, remember, nobody really wanted Jay Cutler this year, maybe for their own reasons, and then he wound up retiring. So while Jay Cutler has looked okay in the preseason, now is when it counts. Now, here's the thing about it. It might be a good thing for Jay Cutler. He gets another week of a bye to learn to get the offense, get into some kind of rhythm with his receivers, because they're going to be playing the rest of the year without a bye. And that's kind of screwed up in more ways than one, but there's nothing you could really do about it.
It's tough.
But I like the Dolphin receivers. I think Devontae Parker could have actually a better season, have a comeback season this year. And they also got Julius Thomas in the offseason from the Jaguars.
Yes.
So the only thing I'm not a big fan
Fasano
of...
as your second tight end is a good second
good blocking
tight end,
too.
Absolutely. And he's got good hands.
What worries me about Cutler is if the line doesn't perform and he starts getting drilled, is he going to be a little bitch about it? And my answer to that is yes.
Yes, always.
So we'll just leave it at that because there's really no debate on that one. Now,
onto the defense.
The defense, Cameron Wake is, for his age, he still has a pretty high motor. He still provides a really good pass rush. Ndamukong Suh, when he's not stepping on heads of other teammates, he's actually, he actually has played pretty well. I didn't love the Lawrence Timmons pickup mainly because of his age. I don't think he's as good. I think he was more of a product of what the system in Pittsburgh under Dick LeBeau.
Right.
And even though LeBeau is not really there anymore, Kiko Alonso had a really good season last year for them after they did the trade with the Eagles. I don't love this secondary at all.
Maxwell
I think the secondary is going to be really bad. Now, here's the thing, though. Just like you said about Buffalo, how do you judge the Dolphins secondary when they're playing the Jets twice a year and they're playing the Bills twice a year?
You're going to have to judge it by every other team they play.
Thank you.
And just throw out those 2 games.
And it's going to be this 4 games.
4 games. Sorry, those 4 games.
So you're talking 4 games out of a 16-game season. So now you're basically judging them on 12 games.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you can't really do the litmus test of the Patriots because the Patriots are going to just steamroll everybody in that division. It's not going to matter.
I will also tell you this. Just listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth and know it as fact. Maxwell is terrible. Byron Maxwell is terrible. And if you're the other team, you love it because you can throw up and down on him all day long. He's bad. They don't really have, Xavier Howard. They don't really have a guy. And sometimes all you need is one guy, right? You need one guy. Like the Giants got Landon Collins, and for a year he was like the guy the other guys will fall in line around him. They have no guy in their secondary who scares the hell out of you.
Yeah, I mean, they took Byron Maxwell to get, with the Eagles and everything. And
I would have put Maxwell at safety, but they kept him at corner.
The backup to Maxwell is Alteron Werner, who signed a big contract in Tampa and was awful in Tampa after he was decent in Tennessee.
I think they should start Tankersley just because his name is Tankersley. It has the word tank in it.
That'd be better if it was Buffalo. But
exactly.
So, again, I mean, the Dolphins, it's really going to – and, again, a 10-6 team last year made the playoffs. Gase's second year. There's going to be a lot of expectations, and whether they can live up to it or not, or even whether they can even match it.
And here's the thing, and we've been talking not necessarily nicely about Jay Cutler, but make no mistake, Jay Cutler and Ryan Tannehill are essentially the same thing. So you can't cry Tannehill being hurt as a reason your team sucks this year, because Jay Cutler might actually be better than Ryan Tannehill, which isn't saying a lot. Because I'm not sure how good Tannehill actually is. And so, for me, I mean, they went 10-6 last year. He missed, the last 5 games?
Yeah.
What's the backup?
Matt
Moore went and won a couple of those games. So, you don't get to use the excuse. If Tannehill gets hurt and Bryce Petty's your backup, you can use that excuse. But you can't use it now because Jay Cutler's not a bad quarterback. And he can absolutely take a team that has a good defense and a good offensive line and good weapons to a playoff.
And the thing is, Matt Moore is one of the better backups in the league.
Yeah.
So, again, it's like...
Which is why it was smart not making him the starter.
Yeah. On to the Patriots. And, the Super Bowl champions, do we really need to go deep into discussion about this?
All I'll say is this.
Losing Edelman for the season doesn't really matter.
None of it matters. Because they traded a second-round pick to get Coney Ealy and then cut him. Nothing. It doesn't matter. Here's what I'll say about the Patriots. If you haven't yet read the dead spin why your team sucks about the Patriots, do yourself a favor. It is awesome. Because what they do is they don't really attack any of the players or the system. They just attack the team by saying that they are the team of the alt-right because they have the most white players. They have all white receivers. Their quarterback and their owner and their coach love Donald Trump. Bill Belichick wrote a letter to Donald Trump being like, your leadership and through the media being terrible to you is amazing. So just if you want to feel good about hating the Patriots, just go read that article and you'll be fine.
Look at it. They have literally the most white receivers I've ever seen on a team.
Except for Brandon Cooks, who's not white.
No?
He's not.
I know. But, look, you have Gronkowski. You have...
See?
Okay. I just lost money on that bet.
Yeah, it's all right.
Chris Hogan, Danny Amendola, Rob Gronkowski.
Philip Dorsett.
That was actually not a bad pickup.
It was a great pickup for them.
Remember how he killed the Colts on that pick?
Yes.
Because they didn't need him?
It was a bad pick for the Colts, but if you put him with Tom Brady, he's going to be the best receiver in the world.
But I wonder if he's going to be more of a punt returner for them.
Well, yeah, but deep threat. They'll incorporate him in the offense. Somebody actually made something really crazy as well, is that don't be shocked if the Patriots trade Gronkowski. In the middle of the season, right? Because they don't want to pay him,
but then on top of that, and then they go out and they get Gillislee and Burkhead from the Bills and Bengals respectively. And again, they just know how. They're just a very, very smart organization. They've been like that for years and years and years.
Now, look, their defense is good, and I know their defense was very good last year, but again, I think part of that is they get to play 6 games against the AFC East, and so that helps their defensive stats. When you saw what the Atlanta Falcons did to them up until 3 minutes and something seconds left in the third quarter,
thank you, Kyle Shanahan,
was simply light them up. I think Butler is a good cornerback. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's locked down. I think he has good games, but I don't think he's locked down week in and week out. I don't even think Stephon Gilmore is that.
He hasn't been. He's been disappointing. He was not that great with Buffalo.
No.
I didn't think he was.
Now, listen, again, New England's one of those teams. They take guys and all of a sudden they become good underneath them. So,
but the other thing with what they do is they take guys that nobody really wants and they turn them into players.
Yeah.
Think about it. Kyle Van Noy was a second-round pick at Detroit who did nothing with the Lions. He went to the Patriots. Starting weak side linebacker was a key part. He definitely was a key part of their defense last year, even when they got Barkevious Mingo from the Browns.
Right.
Barkevious Mingo played well under Matt Patricia and Belichick.
Yeah.
They bring back Dante Hightower. I mean, that was kind of the worst-kept secret ever. There was no way Hightower was signing with the Jets over the Patriots.
Come on.
I mean,
stop.
So in that sense, again, they bring back the same guys. Trey Flowers had a pretty solid season last year. Alan Branch. So this is going to be, I mean, listen, they're going to win the AFC East. We already know it. I mean, It's not like it's really, it's not going to be a shock to the system here.
The only thing that you can look for is that the last time the Chiefs played the Patriots at home to open a season, Tom Brady missed the rest of the season.
Well, the thing is,
that's the only thing.
Here's the thing about Tom. Even if Tom Brady gets hurt, Garoppolo is perfectly capable of handling this offense. So I think they'll be.
He is, but Garoppolo got hurt last year. See, one of the things that people don't talk about with quarterbacks is longevity and health. Tom Brady has literally missed 15 and a half games in his career. And that career is 18 years now, something like that? Yeah. 17 years? He's missed 15 and a half games. Garoppolo started 2 games last year and got hurt in the second one? Mm-hmm. So, people will say, "Oh, well, Garoppolo can do it." That's if he stays healthy. I mean, the Giants have this. I go through the same thing with Eli Manning. He's played 200. When he plays Sunday, it'll be 200 straight games. Law of averages at some point, and then it's Geno frickin' Smith. So yes, everyone loves Tom Brady. Everybody loves Eli Manning. Everybody loves Aaron Rodgers. Everybody loves all these guys. But they are literally one hit away from not being in the game. And then you're screwed. I don't care who you are. The Patriots are not winning the Super Bowl this year with Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback. They're just not.
On to the NFC East. We'll start with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles make a couple of big moves in the offseason. They bring in Alshon Jeffrey. They bring in Torrey Smith. They bring in LeGarrette Blount. At the end of the day, my issue with the Eagles is the defense. I just don't think the defense is that good. I think their offense will be fine. As Ertz is pretty solid at pass catching tight end.
If Peter stays healthy, and when he played last year, they won every game he played and lost every game he did.
Well, last year too. Remember, they lost Lane Johnson for 10 games because he violated the PEDs, or it was substance abuse or whatever it was. But again, I think that I think the Eagles will be a competitive team. I think this is a make or break year for Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
They drafted first round. Now, listen, that was under Chip Kelly. But at the same time, I think, if he proved to them, if he beat out Jordan Matthews basically for the spot, then I'm sure he's got to show you something at this point, right?
Yeah.
And Jeffrey has a lot to prove because he's only on a 1-year deal. And I think...
isn't Smith?
Torrey Smith, I think
Did
he's...
he sign? Was it more than one? Or is it one with an
two.
option?
It might be 2, but it's after
it's
a year,
really one, right? Yeah, I mean, it's,
How big of a year is this, do you think, for Carson Wentz? Does he need to take a colossal step forward? Or is he
I don't think colossal, because I think he was very good last year. So I think if he plays a step above what he did last year, I think that would be enough. If he plays a step above where he did last year, that's enough to get to that team to 9 wins, maybe even 10.
Right.
Because he actually was very good last year. Mm-hmm. I actually think as a quarterback, he's better than Dak Prescott. Mm-hmm. I think just Dak has better weapons and an offensive line around him. But I think from forget about all the other stuff. I'm talking about pocket passer. I think he's better than Dak Prescott. I think here's the thing. He can't be bad. If he takes a step back, it'll be debilitating for that team because they don't see him that way.
Now, here's the thing. Last year, he had Jordan Matthews as pretty much his number one, if I remember correctly.
Oh, he's got better weapons this year by
far.
far.
So he kind of doesn't really have any excuses to not take a step forward this year.
Yeah, you can't take a step back with better weapons.
Yeah.
That would be bad. But as you said, the problem isn't going to be the offense. The problem's going to be the defense because it is bad. They have no secondary. And I know they got Darby. I get it.
But Darby got burned a little bit in preseason, too. I mean,
Darby's not good. That's my point is that people, the Ronald Darby.
Listen.
Darby's fine.
I'll give you Malcolm Jenkins because Malcolm Jenkins is actually a pretty solid safety.
He is. Absolutely.
Okay? But I can't really sell it. And I was a little surprised. I'm not going to lie, unless maybe they just didn't have the cap room for it. I was surprised the Eagles didn't make a push for Hayden when he got released.
Yeah, I think
Hayden would have been he wouldn't have been a colossal upgrade, but he would have been an upgrade. And then you pair him with Darby, and then you might have something to get you through the season. Where the Eagles are going to win the defensive battle, it could be on the line.
Yeah.
With Brandon Graham, Timmy Jernigan, they got from the Ravens, Fletcher Cox, and then they have Chris Long too as a situational pass rusher.
Right.
I like Michael Kendricks, who's been rumored to be traded forever.
Which is amazing, right?
Yeah, it seemed like he was rumored for months to be traded.
Also, don't trade all your good players. Stop doing that.
I mean, but that's where I think. And then on top of that, they drafted Derek Barnett in the draft. Pretty solid pass rusher. So I think overall the Eagles have a strong defensive line that will get pressure. But if it gets to the cornerbacks and the safeties, they could be in trouble.
Well, that's how they're going to try and win games, right? They're going to try and just pressure the quarterback and hope that he doesn't get one off, because if he does, it's probably going.
Now, the other thing, too, is on the offensive side, real quickly before we jump to the next team, Alshon Jeffrey's got to stay healthy.
Yes.
That's a key. That's a huge issue for him. He didn't stay healthy in the past couple of years with the Bears, and then he got suspended for 4 games to finish out the season.
Right, exactly.
It is extremely important that Alshon Jeffrey stay healthy. If he misses a game here and there, I'm not going to go crazy. But if he misses extended time, they're in a lot of trouble.
Indeed.
On to the Redskins, or the Reagans.
Is that what they're going to be called?
No, that's what we said they wanted to be called, and you ripped them.
Oh,
for
hell
no!
That. Don't do that. Dude, one of the worst presidents ever.
On to the Redskins, and another year of Kirk Cousins under the franchise tag.
So much money.
The receivers are a lot now a little younger, as Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon are on to other teams, so they'll be going. They signed Terrell Pryor to a 1-year deal again, another prove it deal, which is interesting for a guy like Terrell Pryor. I'm a little surprised he would take that. I think
because I think coming from the Browns, people I'm not really sure. Like, was you just good because you were it, or are you really good?
And the thing is, if the Browns didn't sign him, that could also raise a flag. Josh Doxson, if he could stay healthy, he missed pretty much all of last year with an injury. And, of course, you have Jamison Crowder as well, who's due for another breakout season.
And same as Jordan Reed can't stay healthy. He never is healthy. He always misses games. And when he misses games, that offense, it's not the same. Having Jordan Reed being able to take linebackers out of there and beat linebackers like a drum.
He was in the concussion protocol.
Right, but I'm saying last year, I think it was knee or ankle. I can't remember which one. He's always got something, so he always misses games. Their running game is good. It's not as good as it was when they had RG3 there. Well, here's the thing. These weapons don't scare me. They just don't. I mean, I know Crowder's a good wide receiver. He's a good possession receiver. He's got speed. And I know Terrell Pryor can maybe be a good wide receiver. But their offensive line is good. Trent Williams is good, but he's going on the other side now. Brandon Scherf has been good at right guard for them. Their offensive line is good, not great. And when you're going up against great defensive lines, like you're talking about with the Eagles or with the Giants, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for them to score points.
It'll be a case of where Kirk Cousins can take them. And I think, because the defense...
And the one thing we know about Kirk Cousins, in a big spot, he throws an interception.
That's true, yeah. As for the defense, they drafted Jonathan Allen this year, which was actually a pretty solid pick for them. They definitely needed a guy in the line. Ziggy Hood had a pretty decent season last year. Kerrigan is still very good on the outside, getting a rush. I need to see more to Josh Norman. I need to after a massive contract that he signed after he was released by the Panthers. Right now, the Panthers are looking pretty smart for not giving him all that money.
And the thing is, Josh Norman's been good. But when you're Josh Norman, and I'll put a giant parallel to it. You had Jackrabbit last year go up against Dez twice and shut him down completely. 2 catches for 20 yards. Okay? Josh Norman has not had that game against any of the good wide receivers that he's played against. He did not play that way against Odell twice. and he did not play that way against the Cowboys last year. So you're right. It is absolutely. Let me say this: the money you're paying Josh Norman, it should be him on one side of the field and everybody else worrying about everybody else.
Yeah.
And if you like it, I prefer the Belichick way, which is putting Josh Norman on the second best receiver and then doubling the first. That's what he likes to do, which I think is smarter to do.
Well, at this point, I think their secondary is still weak. I mean, we have DJ Swearinger as the other safety, who's
Breland, Rashad Breland,
and then on top of that, I think Sua Cravens is actually talking about retiring because all of a sudden, which is
no, he did retire.
Is that
I'm
official?
pretty sure he did. Yeah.
Okay. So look, the Redskins added a few decent pieces to the defense. Zach Brown from the Bills.
But it's a good front seven again, right? It's a good front seven.
And it's going to be
bad
a case,
secondary.
Yeah. So Norman really has to earn that money because he hasn't earned it. He was not that great last year.
No.
It was very disappointing. And as for none of the secondary guys really scare me outside of maybe Josh Norman.
Maybe.
On to the Cowboys, who were the NFC East champions last year.
Going to the Super Bowl.
Again, they bring back the same exact guys.
Yeah.
Outside of Doug Free retiring, this is pretty much the same exact team.
But Lyle Collins might even be better.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Their offensive line might have gotten actually better.
Now, if Elliott gets suspended, if he has to take the suspension, your running game is going to take a hit because one thing you can count on is McFadden always gets hurt.
Yeah, but they have Alfred Morris behind him, so they have quality. And look, let's be fair. When McFadden was there before Zeke was there, he got 1,500 yards behind that offensive line.
Yeah,
that line is so good. That line is so good that you could almost put, and that's why. And look, I get it. If you see a great running back, you can do you draft him, I guess. But that's why I never understood the pick for Zeke Elliott. They don't need Zeke Elliott with that offensive line to be a great running back. Zeke Elliott is served better on a team with a good offensive line. Not great, of course.
It's all Jerry Jones and the
but you
flashy
understand my
pick.
point, right?
No, I do understand your point. I mean, the thing
they
is,
would
it's
have been
all
better served
flashy.
going defense that year.
It's all flashy Jerry Jones. He wants the flashy guys, the guys who are problem children because they're great players in college, but they hit women and they do drugs and all that stuff. That's what he likes.
But don't you think one of the corners, like the safety, like Jalen Ramsey, was in that draft, would have been a better pick there? Yeah, maybe. But I think he went third anyway, so it doesn't matter. But you know what I'm saying. So
now listen, we already know what the Cowboys can do on offense. It's really a question of the defense, and the defense is taking some hits because basically
everyone's suspended.
No pun intended on hits, by the way. That's all right.
Nice.
Right.
I just got that. Nice.
So did I. I just caught my own my pun there. So the thing is, you have Randy Gregory suspended. You have DeMarcus Lawrence suspended. Yep. I think you have another guy suspended on the Cowboys. You have, and so forth. You have one guy who's hurt. I think it's Hitchens or whatever. He's missing. Going to miss 8 weeks.
I think it's a knee or an ankle. I think
some kind of that. They thought it was a torn ACL. It turned out to be just like a patella tendon injury. And on top of that, their secondary, I don't like their secondary with Scandrick and Carroll on the outside.
And their safeties might be good. The kid Jones, I think it was drafted last year for them, I think was.
Yeah,
and he was a corner, and now he's going to be a safety. He's very athletic, so they're hoping that he can just sort of, be the free safety and just play center field and just sort of catch passes. The thing about Scandrick is he's coming off a knee injury, so how good is he going to be coming off the knee? Nolan Carroll.
Well, I'll even give you one better. If you look at the depth chart, Jalen Smith is actually the starting middle linebacker. This is a guy who was out a year because of the nerve issue in his knee.
And also, there are times where I feel like I'm alone in the world, okay? And one of those times is when I'm talking to Cowboy fans about Jalen Smith and their expectations for him. They think that when he comes back, he's going to be the same guy he was at Notre Dame. There is no way he will be as fast and athletic as he was at Notre Dame coming off of that injury. He hasn't played football 2 years?
Give or take, yeah.
It'll be 2. I think it's almost 2 years. Mm-hmm. So are you talking about a guy who had nerve damage? Like, this guy's going to take hits. What happens when this guy's at the bottom of a pile and a guy lands on his knee? I mean, like, I know that it's preseason, but who knows if that's happened in preseason? I'm talking about the day in, day out wear of playing 60 minutes of, well, not really 60 minutes, but you know what I mean, 60 minutes of football on a guy who had nerve damage up until 6 months ago.
Here's the other thing. Outside of Sean Lee, who's going to play weak side linebacker?
Well, that's the other thing, because Sean Lee was healthy all year last year, which has never happened before, so you can't necessarily expect it to happen again. If he goes out, does that mean Wilbur moves over there? Does it mean Elliott? Does that mean Jalen Smith moves out there because he's more athletic? Nobody knows.
In other words, you have a guy who has no experience at the position if Sean Lee gets hurt, so you could be screwed.
And you have a guy in Sean Lee who, up until this past year, has been hurt every year of his career, every one. And let me say this, Sean Lee's a great linebacker, He's just been killed by injuries.
Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much it. I think we're done with our NFL overall preview. It's time to do our Jets and Giants preview for the season. What do you want to start with?
Let's start with the Jets.
Oh, look at you.
I'm so benevolent.
I appreciate it. Look, let's call it what it is. It's a rebuilding year.
Sure.
Okay, that's pretty much what it is. They are trying out people at positions to see what they have for next year. Next year, they'll have a ton of cap space, which means they'll probably wind up bringing in a few free agents. They're going to have close to like $80 million in cap space from what I heard. So this is just a tryout year to see what we have with regards to depth on the offensive line, depth at receiver, and all that stuff. There's a few things to like about the team. For example, like Bilal Powell to me is one of the most underrated running backs in the league, and
Absolutely.
I never figure out why they play him in garbage time in preseason games. You're going to get this poor guy killed. Mm-hmm. Okay. Robbie Anderson may have stumbled onto something good with him, but we won't know that. We can't.
He's
we
suspended
can't.
for 4 weeks, right? Is he suspended?
No, he's not suspended.
Who's
the Safarian Jenkins is
okay.
for 2 games. We won't know that. We can't really possibly know that after 1 year, though. So what the Jets did this week, I thought was good.
Oh, it's great.
Because, number one, they went out and they traded Sheldon Richardson. They got Jermaine Kearse, and they got a second-round pick back next year. Okay, so now you got 2 second-rounders and a first-rounder. You could play with that any way you want. Okay.
Also, Kearse is a very good wide receiver.
Now, here's the thing about Kearse, though, right? Kearse is not Antonio Brown. He's not Julio Jones. He's not even Jarvis Landry to an extent. But he's better than what we had.
Oh, yeah,
Okay?
absolutely.
So for that, the trade is a win.
He was better than what you had when Enunwa was healthy. And Quincy
actually
Enunwa is a good
right.
wide receiver, but he's the best wide receiver they've had since Brandon Marshall and what's his name left.
Then on top of that, they bring back Jeremy Curley.
Yeah.
Again, Jeremy Curley has experience in the West Coast offense. Do I expect him to be a 1,200-yard receiver? No. But
he was a
again,
great possession receiver for you guys.
But again, better than what we had to start the season. Now that takes the pressure off guys like Ardarius Stewart and Chad Hansen. Okay? And to a greater extent, it probably takes some pressure off Robbie Anderson.
And Josh McCown.
Okay? So now Josh McCown has a guy who has experience in the West Coast offense, just like McCown does.
Yep.
He has a formidable running game with Forte and Powell.
Yep.
Okay? And he's got Kearse, who can make plays. Okay? When Safarian Jenkins comes back, you hope what you see on the field is what he showed you in the preseason.
Right.
Okay? Because, we always get that build up and then it never really happens.
Right.
Okay? And on top of that, I like the fact that they claimed Will Tye from the Giants because, again, he has experience in the position. He can make plays. He's not Gronkowski, but he's better than what we
was the leading tight end receiver on the Giants last year.
And that's my point. It's better than what we had. The offensive line scares me on more just because they're raw, they're inexperienced, there are a lot of backups. Carpenter and Winters are pretty much the only returning starters from last year, and you're really risking a lot with Brandon Shell as your right tackle, who was a 5th-round pick last year. Now, he has shown you some flashes, but then I see games like the Giant preseason game where he just got run over by JPP.
I mean, but he's not playing. But, and I say this a lot because because Eric Flowers gets killed, and we'll talk about the Giants in a bit, but I'll say the same thing here. Good defensive ends, and if you watch it throughout history, really good defensive ends beat offensive linemen sometimes. Tyron Smith gets beat sometimes. Not all the time, usually not most of the time, but he gets beat. The thing is, you want to keep the beating to a minimum and not a maximum, and JPP was all over him in that game. Again, also a preseason game, but still, look, let's be fair. We used to think the albatross of the Jets was the wide receiver core. It is now the offensive line.
Yeah.
Because the wide receiver, they've addressed the wide receiver thing. They didn't address the offensive line, but there's not really anywhere to address the offensive line. Because as somebody said, teams don't get rid of bad offensive linemen. They don't cut them. They don't cut them because they're so hard to find.
With Kearse, Curley, Anderson, and when Safarian Jenkins comes back, it's respectable.
Sure. That's
it's
an
respectable.
NFL offense.
Okay?
Absolutely.
It's respectable. Okay?
Let me put it this way. If they had a really good quarterback.
But I'll tell you what.
If they had a really good quarterback, you could make a case for this team going 10-6.
Guess who killed the Sheldon Richardson trade? He's the only person who killed the Sheldon Richardson trade.
Francesa?
No.
Who?
Your boy.
Carton?
Manish.
Oh, Manish Mehta did that because he got the guy in the locker room who was on his jock, who was giving him all the information, is out of town now.
Killed the Sheldon Richardson deal.
And now Manish has to actually do some work instead of just making up articles like an ass.
It was an embarrassment off on the field.
Killing
Mo Wilkerson. Mo
Wilkerson. And listen, I get people telling me Sheldon Richardson's better than Mo Wilkerson, and maybe that's true. I don't know, but I'll say this. Mo plays more than Sheldon does.
Sheldon has not been that great the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Remember, he only had 1.5 sacks last year.
Yeah.
You want to argue that he was on the outside linebacker? That was more towards the end of the season, though.
Yeah, it wasn't
That wasn't something in the beginning of the year. But he was just as late to team meetings as Mo Wilkerson was. He always had an attitude. He can't let this Brandon Marshall thing go. I mean, for crying out loud. It's literally, it's pathetic.
Yeah.
It's pathetic.
And also, and if you talk to anybody else on the Jet team, they all say nice things about Brandon Marshall.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing that nobody else is seeing? Or are you the only one who's willing to say it?
Or is he
I feel
the
like
guy?
Most of the guys
Here's the
would
thing.
but I feel like most of the guys would be like, I don't really want to talk about that.
But is
if they
he the
didn't like
guy?
him.
But is Brandon Marshall the guy trying to encourage Sheldon Richardson to play better? And Richardson's like, screw you.
Yeah, probably.
It could be because he has an ego.
And let me say this. The idea that a guy like Brandon Marshall, who is really towards the end of his career, might not play as hard when a team is 4-10 is nothing new, and it's not dumb, and it's not bad. Sorry. I heard Herm Edwards say the best thing I've ever heard anybody talk about a football player. Football players are independent contractors, okay? Which is why when you say a team is tanking, it's never the players, it's always the management, right? Because the players don't tank. Every guy on this team wants to be on a football team. And if it's not the Jets, it's one of the other 31 teams.
That's why I think there's going to be some fight in them this year. And I think, we
They're
haven't
going to win 5 games.
We haven't touched on the defense this year.
Oh, defense is good.
But I think the defense is going to be better than a lot of people thought.
I think it's going to be real good.
Because one thing I noticed from the preseason games was a lot of speed.
Oh, yeah.
Demario Davis looks faster than I've seen him. Darren Lee is definitely fast.
Yep.
I really like Jordan Jenkins. Josh Martin has come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
To take the outside linebacker job. He's mostly a special teams guy.
And Claiborne is fast. He may not be good, but he's fast.
But the thing is, one guy I love that they picked up, man, it just showed me that they
Coney Ealy.
Great
pickup.
Okay, I think that's a great pickup.
Because let's be fair, as good as the Jet defense has been since Rex got here, right? And even before that, but since Rex is here, as good as the Jet defense has been, the one thing they've always been missing is an outside rusher, a guy who's on the outside who can just go after the quarterback. They've always had really good defensive linemen who can rush the quarterback, but they haven't had that since Abraham. And Coney Ealy fills that spot. If you put him at either outside linebacker or right or defensive end,
when he
can
got
get after the
released,
quarterback.
when he got released, I didn't think the Jets would pick him up.
No, it was a good
at
pickup.
all, and I thought that was a great pickup.
And it's also a good pickup for him too, because he's going to get a lot of playing time.
Mm-hmm. And now the only thing I'm really excited about Adams and May in the middle.
Yes.
If Claiborne could stay healthy, I think Claiborne is a good cornerback. I don't love Buster Screen. The human pass interference penalty.
But, I mean, look.
Now, what I think is going to happen, I think eventually Justin Burris is going to take that job.
Probably.
I
would imagine so.
Because Justin Burris has actually played well. I mean, he's gotten beat a few times, but I think overall he's played well.
But what did we say about Buster Screen when they signed him? He's a slot corner. He's not an outside corner. He's a slot corner. And if Burris does take his job, then you could put Screen in the slot where he is at his best. Still not great, but at his best.
Let's get on to the G-Men as they open up. Obviously, they open up against the Cowboys. And
can we stop doing that, please?
What?
Stop having the Giants and Cowboys play every first game.
No, you got to
Sunday
have
night.
it. It's like tradition. It's like the Lions playing on Thanksgiving now.
Infuriating.
It is officially like the Lions playing on Thanksgiving.
So brutal. Look. Most people think Odell Beckham's going to play on Sunday. I'm not so sure because let me say this:
Do you hold him out of the game?
If his ankle's not 100%, yes. Because what's the point?
I agree.
What's the point? If he gets hurt again and he's out for 6 weeks, we're screwed.
I agree 100%.
So hold him out of the game. Let me say this. If the Giant offense can't beat the Cowboy defense without freaking stupid Odell Beckham, they don't deserve to win the game anyway.
Okay.
With that offense. I mean, listen to this. It's got Brandon Marshall, right? You got Ingram, who I think is going to be really good. Roger Lewis and Tavares King are good. Paul Perkins, if he ever gets a hole, is a really good running back. He's got good moves. He can run downhill. So is Arlene's Darkwa. And, of course, you got Shane Vereen, who is a great pass catcher out of the backfield. Evan Ingram is going to be the wild card here because defenses don't really know how the Giants are going to use him yet. The Giants haven't really used him in preseason.
You got to give it a few weeks to see the game film on him.
But I'm saying you're going to see him run up the seam because he's going to run by every linebacker.
That is all the more reason why I hate the fact they're playing the Cowboys week 1 is because the game could go either way. But it's I'd like to see that build up to week 5.
Yeah, you would think, right? But they're not going to do that. The thing, and we'll get to defense in a second. The thing about the Giant offense is simple. If the offensive line can give Eli Manning 4 seconds, they'll win a lot of games. If they can't, they're going to lose a lot of games. Mm-hmm. It's really that simple. So, and I know what you're going to say. And Lord in heaven, who I don't believe in, can you please do something to John Jerry? I mean, don't do anything mean to him, but just maybe give him the flu so he can't play on Sunday because it's brutal to watch him get destroyed in and out. I think Eric Flowers will be better this year. He will not be great, but he will be better this year. And it's all about the offensive line because that's how it flows. If the offensive line plays average, Craig, the Giants are going to win 10 games. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
Real quick on the defense, it's stacked. I like the linebackers. Casillas was excellent for us last year. Kennard had a very good year, and Goodson has been really good so far. The Giants secondary is good. It's just good. Darian Thompson's going to be back there, so there's more chances for interceptions because he's got better hands than Adams or Burhay. Apple practiced fully today, so the ankle's good. You got Jenkins, and then you got Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie playing the slot. The Giants are stacked in their defensive backfield, and they're stacked on the defensive line. I mean, listen, the kid that they drafted in the second down, Tomlinson from Alabama, he's backing up Jay Bromley. He'll actually may end up playing because I think Bromley's still hurt, but Tomlinson is a good player. And the thing about the Giants that nobody talks about is, yes, their ends are really good with Pierre-Paul and Vernon, but what they don't talk about is Kerry Wynn and Okwara are excellent backups. Kerry Wynn may not get the sack totals, but he plays the run beautifully, and he's a really good defensive lineman. The Giant defense is not the problem here, and I actually am very excited to watch these guys because it's almost the same defense. And Spags, from the first time that Spags was with the Giants, what you see with Spags is as the defense gets more comfortable in the system, he starts implementing more stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited to see the new stuff he implements this year to go after guys like Dak. Because let me say this, the one defense that manhandled the Cowboys last year was the New York Giant defense.
All right. You ready to do some closing time?
Yeah. Let's hook it up.
NFL preview is over. This is our special edition of Closing Time as we pick, I guess, our winners of each division, wild card, Super Bowl, Pro Bowl.
Sure. Pro Bowl.
Bud Bowl.
Yeah, the Bud Bowl.
So here we go. Where do we leave off?
We left off with the NFC South.
Okay, so we'll start with the NFC South.
No, we have that.
Okay,
AFC North is
AFC
first.
North. All right, well, I'm going to go from fourth to first. I'm going to go Brownies fourth, just because I think it's just another rebuilding year, but I think they'll win a few more games this year. I definitely think that they'll be a little bit more improved. I think Kaiser will give them a little element to their quarterbacking that they haven't really had. Bengals, I'll think, is third. Part of me wouldn't be surprised if the Browns overtook the Bengals, because I just don't think the Bengals are an exciting team. I don't think they're a very interesting team, and when you keep trotting out the same players every year, you just get the same results.
Right.
But I'll say the Bengals will finish third. Hopefully Marvin Lewis will be fired by then.
No.
Ravens will be second, and I'll take the Steelers as my pick for the AFC North.
I wrote that out for you already.
Look at you.
Because I'm doing the exact same thing, because there's no other way to go. Unless Ben Roethlisberger goes down, the Steelers are winning that division. It's not even close.
Now, if you take a look at the NFC North, I will take the Bears last. I think Trubisky's the quarterback by week 8. I'm going to take the Lions third. I don't really like the Lions as much this year. Just that running game really bothers me, and that defense has just never been improved. Even though I think Terrell Lawson's done everything he can, I just don't think they're a very good defense. I'll take the Vikings second, and I'll take the Packers first. So there's that. How about you?
Vikings, Lions, flip a coin. Who's going to finish second? Who's going to finish third? It's the war of attrition with those two teams. Whichever team finishes healthier is going to win. I'm going to put the Lions there right now because they have the better quarterback, and I always go with the team that has the better quarterback. But I'm going Pack first, Bears last, because that's how we roll up in this piece.
All right, moving on to the AFC East. Obviously, the Patriots will be first.
Do you think there's anybody? Do you think there's anybody who picked like?
Let me tell you something.
The Dolphins.
I'll tell you right now. If you're a compulsive gambler or whatever,
Yeah, you can get the Jets at like 100-1.
you'll bet $10 on the Jets as 100-1 odds.
Sure, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
That's not a stupid bet, though. I'm saying that if you're a professional who does this for a living and you don't pick the Patriots to win that division, should you have your head examined?
No, I don't think so. Because maybe you see something. Sometimes people just like that, man. I mean, it's as weird as it sounds, but
You're just doing that to be difficult. All right, who's number 2?
I'll take the Dolphins second. Although I think there's a Cutler meltdown at some point during the year.
Yeah, but Matt Moore, they got the best backup.
Yes, they do. I'll go Buffalo 3 and the Jets 4, but I think they're going to be fighting for that all year long.
I'm going to go Patriots, obviously. I'm going to go Dolphins because I think they just have the next best roster in that division. I will then go Jets.
Oh, Jesus.
And then I'm going to go Bills. And the reason is because the Bills are
honestly,
the Bills are brutal.
I
It's just brutal.
I could see the Jets beating the Bills Sunday.
Yeah, me too.
I can see them beating the Bills Sunday.
Absolutely.
I mean, depending on how it works out. I mean, if you read a lot of the papers in New York, they don't give the Jets any chance to do anything. They're already, But I think the Jets may be a little bit better than expected.
I think they'll definitely be better.
I think they could easily be a 5-win team. 6 might be pushing it. But I think if you're going to come out of the gate strong. Because outside of the Raider game, the first 4 or 5 games are winnable.
Yeah.
They play the Bills, they play the Dolphins, they play the Jags, and the Browns. Okay? Those are winnable games. The Raider game is not winnable because it's on the West Coast, and that's going to could be a massacre.
And the other thing, the Bills are horrible and could win one game.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that's possible. And you never know. I mean, if this coach starts rubbing them the wrong way, they could easily just mail it in.
Sure.
Quit on the season. So I see the Jets as I'm going to say 5-11. I think they're capable of winning 5 games. And I won't be one of those guys that gets furious if they don't get Sam Darnold. I'm not that kind of fan.
No, should you?
I want to see them. I want to at least have some enjoyment to my season.
Also, you want to see. Here's the thing, guys. If the Jets are 5 wins, 6 wins, all that means is that all these drafts that you thought were abysmal and bad were actually not as bad as you thought. And you might actually have some young players, and it might not take as long to rebuild. It's actually good if you win.
I know.
NFC East.
Give me. I'll go Redskins.
Last, I assume, yes.
Redskins last, Eagles third, Dallas 2, Giants 1.
I'm actually going the same thing.
All right. So let's
I don't pick the Giants often, but I have a feeling about
all right, who are your wild cards?
Wow. Let's see. I think I'm going to go. Wow, this is brutal.
Jesus, just pick somebody.
I think I might just go.
Train to catch.
I think I might just go Broncos and Chiefs.
Okay.
Because I picked the Raiders to win the West.
Who did I pick to win the West?
You had the Broncos. No, you had the Raiders.
Okay. Give me the Chefs.
Yep.
Who did I pick to win the South?
You picked the Titans. You can't take the Texans over the Broncos, are you?
You know what? You're going to give me the Ravens.
Yeah, so Chiefs, Ravens?
I think it's going to be Chiefs, Ravens.
Nice. I almost went with the Ravens.
I like the Ravens.
I almost went
I think
there.
the Ravens are going to be that team that hangs around, and they're going to sneak in when you least expect it, and then they're going to be a pain in the ass to get out of the.
All right, NFC wildcards.
Give me. I'm going to go. Who did I pick for the West?
You picked the Seahawks.
I don't like the Cardinals. Give me Tampa and Dallas.
I already wrote Dallas for you, by the way. And that's Craig. I'm taking the Cowboys, and I am taking the. I'm going to take a shot here and say the Carolina Panthers.
Fair enough.
Because I'm
not a bad pick.
It's not a great pick. All right, who wins the division? Who wins the whole? Who wins the NFC?
I'm going to go with the Giants.
God damn it!
Why?
Because I hate when people.
Are you afraid of the Jinx?
I hate when people pick my team. I'm going with the Seahawks, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going with the Seahawks, actually. AFC?
Give me the Patriots. No. That's too easy. Give me the Steelers.
Steelers. All right. And
Super Bowl?
well, no, who's in the AFC Championship game?
Oh, I would say Steelers. I think it's going to be Steelers-Pats.
Steelers-Pats. I think it's going to be Giants-Seahawks. Would you agree with that?
I think the Seahawks have a good chance this
So
year.
Giants-Seahawks. You're picking the Giants to win. I'm picking the Seahawks to win. AFC, I have Patriots, and I have the Steelers. That's the same thing because if it's anything but that, it's going to be weird. I also have the Pats and the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Craig?
I have the Giants, and I have
Are we going Giants-Patriots part 3?
no, because I don't want the Patriots to go to the playoffs, the Super Bowl. So I'm going to go Giants, Steelers.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
That would be
The
a good
NFL would love Giants Steelers. Eli and Ben, the same draft class. That'd be a fun one. I like that.
one. Yeah, it's not going to be much of a game. The Giants going to win.
I'll punch you in the face. Stop it. You stop.
Stop.
You stop.
You stop.
All right, well, let's stop the show.
There we go. So there are our picks.
Who do you like tonight, real quick?
I'll take the Patriots, but I think it's going to be closer than people think.
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
say by like 10.
They're not covering. You think they're going to cover the 9?
No, I'm sorry. No, then that's wrong.
right.
I'll take them by a touchdown because I think the Chiefs will give them a game.
Sounds good.
And that concludes this episode. Man, I'm so used to doing closing time, and so it's really weird. That concludes the Polar Opposites podcast for this week. Check us out, as always, at polaropposites.podbean.com, iTunes, and Spreaker.com. Follow us on Twitter at PolarOpposites1. Next week, we'll talk baseball, we'll talk football, we'll talk anything we could squeeze into this 90-minute to 2-hour podcast. One more time, polaropposites.podbean.com, as well as iTunes and Spreaker.com, and follow us on Twitter at PolarOpposites1. Enjoy week 1.
Yes.
Finally back.
Thank God.
Enjoy week 1. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the Yankees on their way to winning the World Series. Enjoy life
It's a
and enjoy
jerk.
everything else. And we will talk again next week.
Craig's a jerk. Bye.